This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name, of course, Evan Jansen. The show is always live and broadcast from our studios right here in Auckland Park. Now, between 9 and 12 every weekday morning, we also streaming live on YouTube. You can watch us back on demand even later in the day, anywhere in the world. Today we ask a question around our institutions of learning here in South Africa. Why have our university campuses, there's the question, become battlegrounds? It'll be interesting to hear your views. Of course, here in South Africa today, it's a very important day on the political and economic calendar. Budget speech to be delivered by Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan a little bit later today. It'll be all over the news all day. Elvis has more.
Yes, indeed, Eben. It is budget day, so let's take a look at all your headlines. President Jacob Zuma says the budget to be presented will be good for the country and the economy. The expropriation bill to speed up land reform has been passed by the National Assembly. And the World Health Organization chief is visiting Brazil to assess the Zika outbreak. These are some of the stories coming up in this hour, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makhamate what's happening on the sports field. A very good morning to you, Kendall.
Good morning, Elvis. Thank you very much. Good morning to you at home as well. Here's a sneak peek of what we've got for you in the sports later today. Chiefs miss a chance to close the gap on Sundowns as City hold them to a 1-1 draw.
Deserving of a goal, but great goalkeeping.
Barcelona's Lionel Messi stars in a 2-0 rout of Arsenal at the Emirates last night.
Cross, Lionel Messi, 1-0 Barcelona.
But I'm 100% perfect now. I've been training with the boys last week. The ball's coming up fine. The pace hasn't dropped.
Ahead of the T20 World Cup, Dale Steyn is fit again and ready to take on the world. That's a bit of good news for Proteas fans right there. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. President Jacob Zuma says the budget to be presented will be good for the country and the economy. Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan will deliver this speech this afternoon. Now, yesterday, President Jacob Zuma pronounced it is all systems go for today's budget speech in Parliament. The President met with Gordhan as well as the Deputy Finance Minister SABC Jonas yesterday to discuss the final touches to the budget 2016. The budget is seen as Gordhan's toughest challenge. He is expected to raise taxes and cut expenditure. He will also announce how he's going to stimulate growth amid the weakening economy and the watchful rating eyes of the agencies. Now, a short while ago, we caught up with the Finance Minister in Parliament, and this is what he had to say.
How are you? No, you can't escape me. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I saw you out the corner of my eye. I just want to know how you're feeling.
Oh, I'm feeling good. I think we have a good budget.
Oh, you think so? You're feeling a bit nervous. I mean, everybody's just carrying on about how this is going to be one of the biggest budgets that you've ever done.
I think there's nothing else exciting that's going on, so they're looking for some excitement.
Do you think so?
It looks like.
I think so. I think so. But I mean, what do you do now up until the budget? I mean, it's done. It's finished. We won't take that from you. But I mean,
Please don't.
Is it just relaxing now?
No, I've just briefed cabinet colleagues on some of the highlights.
Yeah.
I go to the office and check the speech again.
Yeah.
Then we have a press conference at 10:30. Then I go to the National Assembly and check various logistics.
Yeah.
Then I go back to the office and relax a little bit, and then get ready for you.
And then get ready. And you get ready for me and the rest of the nation, because everybody's waiting with bated breath.
I want to thank everybody for their good wishes.
Yeah, because I think everybody is standing by you on this one. I mean, it's a nerve-wracking one. I mean, you've literally been in the portfolio for 5 weeks. Not that you're a stranger to it, but things changed in those 2 years.
It's a short time. It's a short time to catch up a lot, and there's a very complex environment we find ourselves in.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But with all the goodwill, we'll do our best.
Did you sleep last night?
Yes, very well, thank you.
I'm happy to hear that. I didn't. I'm nervous for you.
No, that's good. At least we can share the burden a bit.
Minister, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Now, SABC's Leanne Manners is in Cape Town, and she now joins us. Leanne, a very good morning to you. You've been up since early this morning following what's happening there in Cape Town. Tell us, what is the mood like today there where you are?
Oh, Elvis, yes, a very, very good morning to you. Indeed, we have been up since the crack of dawn, as usual, bringing South Africa everything they need to know ahead of the budget. Well, I mean, the mood is very muted here, amazingly. I was quite impressed to see that there is, the usual activity. Doesn't seem to be any extra tight security whatsoever happening here in the parliamentary precinct. I mean, after what we saw with the midterm budget, I think a lot of people were expecting a lot more security measures to be put in place, but it doesn't seem to be the case right now. So it's business as usual. I've seen all of the ministers already walking in. I think I've seen the majority of them from our Lindiwe Zulu. I saw her coming in, the small business. We've seen our sports minister coming in, arts and culture walking through. We've seen many of the ministers already coming through, getting ready to see what this budget holds in store for them. It's tough times we find ourselves in as South Africans, and we certainly are in a very, very difficult situation where many of South Africans are waiting to find out what is going to happen. And I think a lot are fearing increased taxes. Well, the reality is, and speaking to a lot of economists and a lot of analysts, they do believe that taxes are going to be increased, and we're going to find that our burdens are going to be even heavier as we wait for the 2016 budget. But I think the very big thing that people are also waiting for are the plans in place to avoid South Africa for being put into junk status. It's a great worry. We've already seen 2 downgrades happening, and the last thing we need is another downgrade, because I think going into junk status, Elvis, is not something that we want to see ourselves in. It's not a good place to be as a country. We need investment, and the global economies are struggling right now, so everything that we can get to see right now is a big thing. The currency as well. It's another issue I imagine that we're going to have a look at. We're following the currency quite closely. It seems to be strengthening, although we need to see it at better levels, and we'll see what the minister has to say about that. Another issue that some people are wanting to hear about, drought. What is the minister going to touch on about the drought? It's a big problem in South Africa. We've got a lot of our provinces and our main provinces that, of course, are part of our agricultural system, seeing that those are really struggling, and this is hampering production, driving food costs up, and many other issues. There are so many issues. There's the wage bill that needs to be spoken about. There are just so many issues that I think the minister has to address. And as you heard us talking to him, he's been in this portfolio for 5 weeks, and it was a 2-year break that he had. But in those 2 years, so many things changed, and we'll see exactly what he's got up his sleeve for us.
Yeah, the minister seemed a little bit jittery there, but we know he's a calm and collected man. And you've spoken to a lot of analysts, but what is the overall feeling around there from the analysts? Do they feel that we might have that the talk of the VAT that might be increased, which will be hard on consumers?
Yeah, I think a lot of the analysts that we've spoken to have said that could be a reality, that increase in VAT is something that we could unfortunately have coming our way after this budget announcement today. But again, let's wait in and see. You talk about the minister feeling a bit jittery. I have to tell you, Elvis, he looked anything but jittery. He looked calm, he looked cool, he looked collected. He looks like he's a man with an agenda, and that's exactly what he hopefully has got on him. So he really didn't show any signs of nerves to me. He looked pretty relaxed, and it was nice to actually talk to him about something other than the budget. I think he welcomed that. I think the last thing he wanted me to start firing questions to him about what we can expect from him today. But your other question about what analysts' expectations, I think analysts are one that I spoke to earlier this morning, I think really put it in quite a nutshell. This is not going to be a people's budget, and that's something I think we have to understand going into this, is that this budget is not going to be for us. This is going to be a market budget. It's going to be a budget that is going to focus entirely on how we rectify this economy and how we fix the economy of the country. So you and I are going to find this a very, very difficult budget, I think, and we already are finding the burden on us. But hopefully with some of the plans and forward thinking, our lives will become a little bit easier after this. But nonetheless, we find ourselves in difficult places and difficult times. And I think, as another minister said to me, we're in this together. It's not the minister alone. We as South Africans are in this together. So we need to, I suppose, go through this tide as a team.
Leanne, thank you so much for your time and giving us that update.
It's an absolute pleasure.
That's our colleague there in Cape Town with the budget, Leanne Manus, chatting to us there. Now, the SABC will broadcast the post-budget breakfast with Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan tomorrow morning. Now, this follows reports over the weekend saying only a private broadcaster will do so. The SABC broadcast will be from 6:30 to 7:15 a.m. The public broadcaster says it remains committed to its mandate of ensuring that it will bring news of national importance to its audiences. And that's what we do here at the SABC. Now,
we're doing the post-budget breakfast on Thursday in the morning. And this is after consultations were done with the Minister of Finance and the DG in Treasury to make sure that we continue to bring the people of South Africa and the majority of South Africa the information around the budget.
Well, there you have the comments there from our SABC, and of course we will be broadcasting that live for you here. Now, there's a lot of comments around the issue, and let's hear from Eben what the Finance Minister, Pravin Gordhan, will do today. But in fact, let's just continue. Just look at those comments quickly. This one from Unduduzo that says, I don't mind listening to the budget speech, but I'm worried about the sin taxes. So, what does that say to you? He's worried about the sin taxes. This one from Lebogang says, I wish the following things can remain as they are. Child grants, tax, alcohol, and cigarettes. Well, some taxes there at the end must stay the same. That one there. Sunny says this budget will be about increased tax revenue. Expect higher taxes, especially the sin taxes. Increase in the fuel levy. And what is that? Outlier and VAT plus 1%, he says. Mr. Gordhan, please do what you must do, says Ilana Brown on Budget 2016. This one from Real Martin. He says many think that sin tax is the duty that the Treasury levies on cigarettes and alcohol. What do you think, Real Martin, on that one? What is sin taxes? Well, you know what sin taxes are. Those things that make you sin. Simple as that. Well, these are some of your comments. You can keep them coming right here on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. We'll read your comments as we continue today. Now, the expropriation bill has been passed by the National Assembly. Now, this allows for the expropriation of property to speed up land reform. The DA, the FF Plus, and the UDM opposed the legislation. Opposition parties and economists have warned that the bill will deter investors, and the DA says it is at odds with the Constitution. The UDM says the bill will fail constitutional test and did not do enough to deal with land dispossession before 1913. The Public Works Deputy Minister Jeremy Cronin says the legislation will provide a clear framework for expropriation and fair compensation. The bill must now be agreed to by the National Council of Provinces before President Jacob Zuma can sign it into law. Now, on that note, we hand over to Eben Jansen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jarvis. Now, of course, we're asking you a question. Our theme today deals with, well, instability on our campuses. We could call it that. Our question today relates directly to that. We want you to interact with us. Tell us what you think. Why do you think have our campuses become battlegrounds? Yes, they are battlegrounds at the moment. Now, I can report that the police continues to maintain a strong presence at the main campus of the University of the Free State in Bloemfontein. The university has been rocked by racial clashes over the last couple of days. This after students joined university workers in protest against outsourcing.
Armed and ready to go if the need arises. This comes fresh against the backdrop of clashes between protesters and rugby spectators. On campus, calm has returned. However, students continue to sing and chant. Others are choosing to go home until the situation gets back to normal.
I'm leaving because I don't really feel safe here, so I've decided to go home. I'll come back when situations has calmed down.
Just outside the campus, these youths say they are ready to assist those who want to get to safety.
We're here to just get everybody out and get them to safety. No matter who it is, we just want to get everybody to safety.
There was a few people that called me and asked me can I help them, and now just like about 10 or 20 minutes ago they came out, some of them, and got lifts.
In the midst of the tensions and uncertainty, this group of students gathered to pray for peace and come to return.
We'd like to see that there's just peace on campus, peace and unity and restoration. That's why the people came out. It's just students trusting God so that people will just get united. There will be no violence.
UFS Rector Jonathan Jansen has expressed disgust at the behavior of spectators who attacked protesters, but also maintains that the pitch invasion was unacceptable. Jansen says they are gathering evidence to pursue charges against those involved. Bale Samueti, SABC News, Bloemfontein.
Today, of course, we'll focus on language policies in universities. This after the University of Pretoria remained closed now, with gates locked and a high security presence visible there. This follows the clash between a group of students calling for the abolishment of the use of Afrikaans and a group supporting the preservation of the Afrikaans language at the institution. The university is still deciding whether or not to remove Afrikaans as a medium of instruction.
Calling for divine intervention to end student clashes. Students have been at loggerheads over the university's language policy, with police and private security failing to calm tensions.
We've come so far as a country, so now today we're making a stand and say, you know what, we can take hands, black, white together. This thing is, this skin is just skin deep. It's 2 millimeter deep. It's a sacred thing that God gave us. How dare we now, because of language, say no, there's racism, etc., etc. It's become a race issue now.
The university has since proposed a one-language policy where English will be the only medium of instruction language. However, some student groups have rejected this proposal.
I think there are right platforms within the university in which these matters have to be addressed. But to come and vandalize property and to speak evil of one another, we do not think it's the right thing. We need to make our stand very clear. We are here to unite the country.
The university is continuing with consultations. Sipho Stirman, SABC News, Pretoria.
Yes, this morning the University of Pretoria remains closed as after those clashes between black and white students continued at the main campus. Now, AfriForum Youth has called for urgent talks to resolve mounting tension over the use of the Afrikaans language at the University of Pretoria. Police had to intervene as pro-Afrikaans students clashed with EFF-aligned students who want the language abolished as a medium of instruction. Now, AfriForum's youth coordinator, Mone Mostet, is in our Pretoria studio this morning. A very good morning to you, Mone. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
The clashes that we're seeing on campus at Tux right now, is it really necessary?
No, I believe, and I think it's AfriForum's standpoint as well, that students must come together and talk about the resolution regarding the language policy at the University of Pretoria. And I think the first thing that should be addressed is to ensure that all students are safe on campus and that the vicious attacks on students on campus be halted immediately. We don't want a situation where students are attacked and the situation where students get hurt on campus. I believe that the university is a place where students want to go and study and want to go get their degrees, and there's no place for violence on campus.
Do you feel that the student movement that we've seen in South Africa have lost its way a little bit? All races were unified under the Fees Must Fall banner and Fees Must Fall campaign, but now only months later, it seems as if there are real divisions, especially on the campus of University of Pretoria. Do you feel you guys have lost a moment in history a little bit?
I believe the situation on campus has been blown out of proportion, and we need to, as student leaders and as leaders of organizations on campus, we need to ensure that we respect one another and we respect the language of one another. AfriForum's standpoint has always been for mutual respect and recognition on campuses and in communities. And how do we solve then these issues regarding the language policy? And the best and the preferred way is to get into a forum or get onto a consultation process with the different organizations to ensure that we can all have respect for each other and to ensure that there's a place for all languages on campus.
With that said, why did you then choose the strategy of confrontation in the last couple of days?
I don't believe we chose a strategy of confrontation. We received reports of EFF students running around on campus and attacking individuals. And as I said earlier, the violence on campuses, we cannot tolerate it at all. In AfriForum, we tried to defend students as far as we could because we can't let these type of violence on campus.
The Constitution says everyone has a right to be taught in their mother tongue, even Afrikaans. It's enshrined and written in the Constitution. Do you think that universities in the current economic environment can afford to instruct people in their mother tongues? It certainly doesn't look financially viable.
As you correctly said, there is a space in the Constitution for all languages to be taught, all languages to be implemented in South Africa, and it's important that if you want to address the issue of cost, and if you want to address the issue of language policies and a multilingual system, you need the university has a responsibility to set up a plan on how they will implement it, and if they have a correct bankable plan, if they have a correct idea to implement this issue, then they should go and see what the budgetary constraints is. We see at the moment the universities are not even trying to get other African language and to develop other African languages to the point where it's viable in a tertiary institution. And that's why AfriForum last week in their memorandum said to the University of Pretoria they must try and implement and get a plan together to develop Sepedi at the University of Pretoria. Because by not developing Sepedi to an academic language, they are excluding more students from tertiary education. And we want the students, and I think with the technology available today, it is easier for universities to develop languages up to the point where it's viable. And you need to create that incentive, and that's where the responsibility lies with university management at different universities across the country.
Now, Mone, the campus remains closed in Pretoria. What is going to happen next? What needs to happen in the next couple of days in order for the institution to reopen?
Firstly, I think it is for all organizations to come to each other and to say that the violence on campus must stop. I believe there's no place for violence, and the university must also take a strong point to ensure all the safety on students. That is the first part. I think the second part, all students want to go and want to study. No one wants to get behind on the academic year. So there must be a forum, there must be a place for the consultation process of the student leaders and student organizations to come to the table and to address these issues. We can't be able to address these issues by using violence, and I think that's where certain groups are taking a wrong path. It's important for us as student leaders to go and to sit around the table to discuss these issues so that the University of Pretoria and other universities can be open and academic learning can continue. Because that is the purpose of universities, to go and continue academic learning, especially here at the University of Pretoria.
Mone, thank you very much for joining us. That's Mone Mostert. He is the youth coordinator of AfriForum. Now, we invited the SRC president of the university, Thabo Shinyange. He is apparently still traveling. We'll try and slot him into the show as soon as he makes it to our Pretoria studio this morning. But let's take a quick look at our tweet pick of the day. Now, this one comes from Lopsha de Villiers, and it's captioned, "Black and White, standing together against racism," on the Koffsie campus this morning. That, of course, is the University of the Free State. Hashtag there is colorblind, UFS revolt, UFS protests. Those are the hashtags that you see on there. That's the students coming together on the campus. It shows you there are many more students that want to stand together and study than there are those that are agitating the campuses. Our question of the day deals directly with that. Why have our campuses become battlegrounds? Are there agitators on our campus? What do you think? We'd love to hear what you think. It's a very emotive issue. It's a very real issue on all of our campuses here in South Africa. But let's go international quickly and take a quick look at the front pages from around the globe. We'll start in Europe this morning. The Times reports that the campaigns for Britain to leave or remain part of the European Union are neck and neck, according to a poll. Then, in the United States, the USA Today says keeping the U.S. military prison at Guantanamo Bay open is contrary to our values, quoting President Barack Obama. They said this yesterday as a release plan that examines 13 potential sites for transferring the suspected terrorists, but did not propose any specific locations. Then, finally, in India, The Hindu reports that anticipating a stormy budget session in Parliament, President Pranab Mukherjee yesterday exhorted all MPs to discharge their responsibility in the spirit of cooperation and mutual accommodation. Sounds very much like what is going on here in South Africa today. Of course, it's a budget speech day. Big day on the political calendar here in South Africa. Let's take a quick look at what's happening in the courts, because the courts are full. We start in Johannesburg, where Radovan Kretscher will be appealing his 35-year prison sentence to the South Gauteng High Court. Of course, we brought it to you live yesterday. The Czech fugitive was then sentenced to 35 years behind bars for attempted murder, drug dealing, as well as kidnapping. His 5 co-accused were sentenced to 15 years each. Then, in Cape Town, the trial of a woman accused of kidnapping Zephany Nurse when she was a newborn baby from Grootske Hospital in the city there 18 years ago. That's expected to continue in the High Court. The 50-year-old woman has pleaded not guilty to all charges that have been laid against her in this case. Now, our question today, don't forget our question. We ask you, why are campuses battlegrounds? After a short break, we'll continue the discussion around the language policy at the University of Pretoria and how that could set the scene for the rest of the country's universities after this break.
SABC News. We report, contextualize and present news and current affairs honestly, fairly and fully. We consider it a duty to provide consistent, relevant, useful and top quality information and analysis. Our mission is to provide credible, accurate and interesting news programming, bringing news into everyone's homes in everyone's languages. Thank you, South Africa, for relying on SABC News for quality news output and for making us your #1 source of information. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Technology isn't all scary. There's also fun stuff like gaming.
Lots of women do play games, whether it's on their phones or their tablets.
Then there are Africans who are using new tools to make other people's lives much easier.
We typed the whole CV on a small, QWERTY Nokia phone.
For all these and other technology and social media news, join me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC News.
Welcome back. Our theme today is language policies at universities. Now, all activities has been suspended at the University of Pretoria. This follows the clash between a group of students calling for the abolishment of the use of Afrikaans and a group supporting the preservation of Afrikaans at the institution. Meanwhile, the rollout of isiZulu as a third language in KwaZulu-Natal schools is still on track and is expected to be introduced in more parts of the province next year. The provincial cabinet earlier approved the move in and bring an effort, or rather promote isiZulu on par with other languages. We're now joined here by Dr. Mpho Monareng, the CEO of the Pan-South African Language Board. Doctor, very good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning to you and the listeners and the viewers.
First and foremost, I want to take you back to Pretoria, where we've seen the fracas with the students there in terms of the language policy being affected at the university. What do you think should have happened at Pretoria University in terms of their language policy?
I think it's a question of language policies being implemented. All the institutions of higher learning in South Africa, all the universities, have, through the ministerial committee that's set up, I think it was some time ago, where they've been allocated languages, African languages, to develop alongside English. Afrikaans also was regarded among those. But most of the university did design the language policy. Unfortunately, they didn't implement. I think this is the consequences.
Is there a sense for universities to have dual policies, or some universities that has got dual or even sometimes triple language policies in place? Is that a viability in terms of finances working for the universities?
Yeah, it is. It is long-termish. It's much about planning. You should note that multilingualism, it's a norm. It's a reality. We can't run away from it. And in Europe, it's basically a norm in higher education where universities are implementing dual or trilingual language policies. We can do it here. It depends on our planning. We should have started earlier to plan.
20 years ago, perhaps?
Not even 20 years ago. You remember when the institution were allocated those African languages to develop, had they developed the policies and came up with an implementation plan that is basically going on for some times, gradually getting into it, we could have solved this kind of problems. But unfortunately, the university will come up with a language policy and put it there, and it just stays. And I think that's the consequences I have said.
So what you're suggesting, after 20 or even more years, they have not done what they were supposed to do?
Yeah, they haven't. They haven't. You see, these language policies that have been created by university, most of the time were kind of a tick box exercise, where if somebody asks, for example, the language policy for higher education that was designed by the Minister of Higher Education, most of the institutions were doing that just to meet the requirement. And this aspect could have been sorted a long time ago.
Is it even possible to give equal status to all languages in all universities, or what alternatives are there?
It is much about a progressive approach, incremental introduction of other languages. Already we can't deny the fact that English is at the forefront. Historically, it has been there. But are we committed? Politically, do we have the will to make sure that other languages comes in? If we were adopted an incremental approach where we're going to open enough space for other languages to be given grounding, I'll quickly delve into giving an example of how the division and allocation of this language policy were given to the institution. For example, the University of Pretoria was given Sesotho sa Leboa and Afrikaans to develop alongside English. And then you've got University of Johannesburg that was given Sesotho sa Leboa and isiZulu to develop. And it is a long time ago. It's not now. So the fact that they didn't take something seriously cannot be given as a reason to look at this and be wondering what's going on.
Mother tongue language, very important for this particular country. And we highlight that importance of mother tongue language every year. What is PANSALB doing to remedy that situation countrywide?
Countrywide, yes. We do have nine official provinces, the provincial offices, where we want to deal with multilingualism or language issues within the province. For example, currently we develop a strategic plan that is four-pronged. One, we're looking at research. So what happens is that our offices would have in the province level will have to coordinate research related to language matters. One of these will be the language policies. And from there, then we can have a picture or a catalogue of how South Africa looks like, because we will put all the report from all the provinces to ensure that we know and we've got a feel of what is going on. And there's another one that is to do with language equitability. Currently, we're dealing with, I'm talking to you through the medium of English. And one would have to ask, why are we not doing that in Afrikaans or Sesotho sa Leboa? I know the reason will be talking about practicability, but are there signs that we are covering that? So we will be engaging people like you to find out how we can find a way to give this language space to thrive. Remember, the key point among people is that these languages do not have financial value, which is a lie. Each and every language has got that. We just deny it to do that. And they have done that previously, and it has worked. Remember, language can do whatever function you can give it to it. And the choices that we have made are the ones that are landing us in the current trouble. But in short, this is basically what we're doing. We want to cover the entire nation. But multilingualism, I need to emphasize, it's a fact. We're not going to run away from that.
Language equitability, that is a big word for all the provinces. How will that help, and how will that be integrated per province?
Let me just take you to an example of one strategic direction we're looking at as an example. Let's take the Advertising Authority. In the past, I used, when I was still a little boy, listen to the advertisement of gold dollar being expressed in my own language, Sesotho sa Leboa. And most of the youngsters went to smoke, which is not a good thing. I know the Minister of Health will have a problem with me. But lots of people tend to smoking because of those advertisements. There are other positive advertisements that were done. When you look at that instant, that moment, you will know that African languages were given value. Yes. So you could buy because of it. It was occupying advertisement industry. So one aspect for us will be, let's talk to advertisement. How many times did you see in the SABC an advertisement carried in African languages? They are now diminished to extinction. And what are you sending the message? Underlying that, you're telling us that the languages are not important to sell. They are not part of this catalog.
But is that not the problem of the advertiser?
That's what we want to engage with the advertiser and say, this is what we do. And that, again, is your responsibility as a corporate to deal with it and say, but we need multilingualism. And we need also to find out from SABC, what is your language policy? How do you address African languages? How do you give them space to survive?
Now, just briefly, because we haven't got much time, there were some reports that PanSALP are in a state of flux and you'll be closing your doors. Talk to us about that. What is going on?
We're not closing doors anytime soon. What happened is the change of the authority, the governing structure, which is the board. The ministers dissolved the board that was in action previously. He has given what is referred to as interim accounting authority temporarily to make sure that we move to have another new board.
Dr. Realiboha, baie dankie. Welkom.
Thank you.
Okay. That was Dr. Mpho Monareng, CEO at PanSALP. We're going to take we're not going to take a break. We're going to look at some of the comments that has come in, and Eben will take you through that.
Yeah, Elvis, all political parties have spoken out against the escalating violence and the looming worsening of race relations, it seems, across the university campuses here in South Africa. Lots of action on social media. Let's have a look what people are talking about this morning. Of course, we've seen pictures of unity, calls for unity, prayer meetings, the like. Kumo says, shocking. In this globalized world, we still have varsity students who want to be taught primarily in their own language. Tax language policy. Then Dumi Tsotetsi says, okay, race aside, how can a student think that them learning in their language at varsity outweighs a fellow student's academic well-being? Ramarumo Tsikosi says, the varsity struggle to replace Afrikaans with English will only serve to affirm English dominance over African languages. Says Ramarumo. Njabulo says, when I enrolled at varsity in 2013 in the Department of Applied Languages, Afrikaans was my home language. I failed my first year 3 times. Bongi, people saying we must include all 11 languages at varsity. Where must the money come from? Forgot, fees must fall already. Yes, Bongi, that is the question. Where must the money come from for all of these? Where must the money come from for all of these new professors, lecturers, books, study aids, and so forth in all the languages? That's a legitimate question asked by Bongi on social media there. Now, let's take a quick look at what you can see on Newsroom Facebook page this morning. Of course, the president of the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee, Gideon Sam, says ongoing unrest at universities could hinder preparations for the Rio de Janeiro Olympic Games in August, a real concern. Then the Independent Electoral Commission, that's the IEC here in South Africa, has decided to postpone all by-elections scheduled to take place today in KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, Northwest, and the Western Cape. And the government has slammed the latest wave of violent protests at universities, saying it is clear that fringe elements are trying to destabilize the institutions. You can find all of those stories and more on our Newsroom Facebook page, or you can go to sabc.co.za/news for all the news updates. Yes, that's the question that we're asking you today. Government has slammed agitators, third force elements coming in, destabilizing our campuses. We're asking you, why have our university campuses become battlegrounds now? And who do you think are behind these kinds of things? Interesting to see what your views are. We'll continue this discussion. We'll escalate the discussion, actually, after a short break. Don't go away.
Khoisan, Southern Africa's leading distance learning institution, accredited, affordable and accessible management education programs, higher certificates, diplomas, undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. Register at Khoisan and be part of Southern Africa's leading private business school. Visit our website mankhosa.co.za. Khoisan, management education reimagined.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom here on SABC News. We're asking the question today, why have our campuses become battlegrounds here in South Africa? As all campuses, some are closed, some are in turmoil. Violence seems to be the order of the day. Now, one issue, of course, is Afrikaans. And Afrikaans, if you don't know, it's the third most common language in South Africa. It's spoken by about 13.5% of the population. That's just under 7 million people. Mainly what we term here in this country as coloured and white South Africans. The language has its roots in the 17th century, Dutch with influences from English, Malay, German, Portuguese, French and some African languages. But the language policy of the University of Pretoria is based on the provisions of its statute as approved by their council, Senate and then the Minister of Education. Now, the Federasie of Afrikaans Kultuur, that's the Federation of Afrikaans Culture, has for years played a significant role in the development of Afrikaner nationalism by stimulating interest in Afrikaans literature and the arts to help Afrikaners enter the business world and to promote Christian national education. Now, the chairperson of the FAK Board of Directors, Professor Dani Khoisan, joins us from Pretoria. Very good morning to you, Professor Khoisan. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning and thank you very much.
And here in Johannesburg, in studio with myself and Elvis, is Dr. Leonard Martin, who's a social commentator and a man with strong views on the discussion. But Elvis, I'm going to start in Pretoria with Professor Khoisan. I just want to know from Professor Khoisan the current turmoil, let's call it that, on the campus of University of Pretoria in particular and in other campuses in South Africa, seeming racial undertones and divisions. How do you view that, and what is your reaction to it?
Yes, thank you very much. I think what's happening at our campus is, it's underscoring the need to create greater understanding between the different communities in South Africa. In fact, I think it's almost compulsory that we need to renew a certain understanding of what it means to be part of this new democracy. And the question is, of course, why? Why do we need to renew this understanding of what it means to be part of this democracy? And the obvious answer to this is that many different communities are faced with many problems today, problems that range from, let's say, economic and social issues to cultural issues. And I think these issues needs to be addressed. They needs to be addressed in a very constructive manner. And very practical answers needs to be given to these questions.
If I can come to Dr. Martin here in studio in Johannesburg. Dr. Martin, can you give me your views on this whole scenario? I know you have strong views about it, but I want to specifically, and I don't want to be controversial for the sake of being controversial, but I want to attack the one point today that came out in all the discussions, that there's an allegation of third force activity on our campuses, that there are agitators, small groups of people on our campuses that are there for political aims. How do you view that?
Well, I think we actually have to take the bull by the horns. Agitators would not have a space if there were not conditions and circumstances that make for the possibility of their existence or their agitation on campuses. I think we have to approach it very directly and dispel the myths or, notions that third forces just can interact or act at will.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Martin, the question that is being posed really is it's about the deeper transformation that institutions of higher learning have not gone through in this particular period. Would you agree with that sentiment? I would agree with it. There's been a deficit in transformation relating to the legacy, and I think, as the Professor Khoisan has said, there are many issues that need to be dealt with and answers provided for. The most significant one, of course, is what type of space and what type of empowerment does these campuses permit our students. It's both a cultural but deeply historically structural. Mm-hmm. As the professor would agree, even the notion that Afrikaans is still predominantly regarded as a white language is a complete misnomer in relation to the actual cultural history of this country. And what would you say is that particular history? Well, first of all, I think we need to roll back that certain hierarchies were developed in this country. Both English and Afrikaans assumed positions of hierarchy, and these hierarchies assume certain ideological, within the context of civilization, and those placed outside these hierarchies as being uncivilized. Now, my view is that we are still dealing, or even reeling, as we see the violence unfolding on our campuses, from the legacy of that type of hierarchy, which is also structural. That's why I think the deficit of having advanced towards transformation is very urgent on our campuses.
I'd like to pick it up with you there, Professor Khoisan, in the capital. If you can respond to that and talk to us about your view on transformation in these kinds of institutions, but also what we now hear are third force activities on campuses.
Yes, I'm not so sure about the third force argument. I think we need to listen to the explicit arguments raised by the students, and if one listens carefully, that one can certainly tell up a certain idiom. The idea of decoloniality, I think, is at the very basis of all the arguments raised. And if we would like to give an answer to the very situation at universities, we need to focus on this concept and to determine exactly what we mean by decoloniality, because this is the driving impetus behind what's happening. And there, I think we need to be careful. In fact, I think the people that are using this concept would be amazed to see to what extent different communities support the idea of decoloniality also at our universities. I think there's amongst many communities, also amongst the Afrikaans-speaking communities, a support for this idea. But then we need to qualify, we need to identify, we need to circumscribe, we need to define the concept itself. And what is at the basis of my concern is that we are using a very simplistic idea of what decoloniality at our universities mean. And by simplistic, I mean that we tend to work in terms of simplistic oppositions. You know, we almost work in terms of a cowboy and crook, a logic, the good and the bad. And that will not help us to be creative about decoloniality. So along those lines, I would argue.
The demonstration, Dr. Martin, against language in certain universities, does it not maybe imply now that there must be a deeper understanding of the issues of race and language in all our institutions in the country?
I would agree with you absolutely. Language and race in South Africa have been very tied together, if one is to put it that way, up until recently. If one is to put it very straightforwardly, since 1994, the global pressures and the local pressures in terms of South Africa becoming a competitive part of the globe brings all these pressures out into the open. There has been a delay in terms of bringing to the public the precise nature of the challenges. Afrikaans has not been a static language. I mean, we've seen earlier that the Khoisan colored people are at the center of Afrikaans today. So we have to move away from the notion that race, in the sense of whiteness, plays a significant role in terms of the future of Afrikaans. Afrikaans is not about to die. That's part of the ideological problem we are dealing with. But at the same time, we have to liberate our institutions structurally from the idea that certain languages still serve certain hierarchies. The idea of universities is to empower students to play a role, to take the society forward nationally and internationally. We can no longer live in a manner as if the old apartheid notions of hierarchy still have any relevance to the average student. It does not.
Professor, when we earlier spoke to Panselp, there was an indication that there's a language policy in place for all universities, but it seems like it became a tick box exercise. Your reaction to that?
Yes, I'm afraid that we are confronted with a situation that is now, going on for many, many years, in which the government is not able to give practical impetus or practical implementation to the idea of multilinguality at our universities. And of course, we are confronted with many practical problems. The question of money is one obvious problem. But then we have other problems as well. The need to develop the indigenous languages from a rather informal to a more formal language, the need is there. And I certainly, I think it will take some time before that can be developed to a pure formal language. But I think we need to focus on the idea that not all 11 languages will be developed at once at all the universities. That's not possible. But I think what is possible is to develop the languages based on the regions. For example, in Gauteng, you will develop 3 languages, and in the Western Cape, it will be different 3 languages, etc., etc. And that makes it much more practical. But we need some more commitment to this development from the side of the government, I think.
Dr. Martin, in closing?
Well, I think what we've got to understand is that, the arguments of culture and language have also advanced. There is a great need to speed up as our colleague from Panselp said, an incremental approach to actually transforming the language policies at universities in terms of their implementation. However, we must also understand that ethnicity and language today has to be addressed. Certain ethnic groups can no longer be said to be incomparable to other ethnic groups. Language is there for everybody to learn. At universities are open spaces, and they will become increasingly more so. Hence the importance of transformation, both in terms of language policy as well as structure.
Dr. Martin, thank you so much for your time. That was Dr. Leonard Martin, a social commentator as well as a chairperson of the FRK, or the FAK, the Board of Directors. Professor Dani Khoisan joining us from our Pretoria studios. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Well, it's over to Eben now to take a look at some of your comments.
Yeah, obviously it's been a very, very interesting discussion we've just had. Of course, another interesting story that's in the news right now is that Parliament has taken a bold step towards the restoration of land rights when it passed the long-anticipated Expropriation bill yesterday. Very interesting development. We're going to devote an entire show to it within the next week or so to discuss the issues around land expropriation. Such an emotive issue here in South Africa. But let's have a look at some of the tweets after this was put forward by Parliament. Outside SRC says, the National Assembly has passed the land expropriation bill. Yes, give back our land, says Outside. Bampof, who says, the past land expropriation bill appears revolutionary till you get to the part where it says, through compensation for ill-gotten land, says Bampofu. Rosanal, parties oppose expropriation bill for different reasons. EFF, no to compensation. DA, risk of government abuse. UDM doesn't address pre-1913. It's a very difficult one. Then Brandon says, well, as long as people don't have jobs due to lack of investors, how do you think the expropriation bill will sort out all the evils? Very business-orientated view of it there. Renew Van Wyk says, at this rate, we will only have the debate on the expropriation bill when Kingdom come, and we still need to rest for budget 2016, says Joylene Van Wyk. Yes, of course, it's a big day here in South Africa today. It's the long-anticipated budget speech. Some say the most difficult juggling act that the finance minister has had post-democracy here in South Africa. The minister was very relaxed this morning when he spoke to Leanne Manus, saying that, nope, it's just another day. He had a very good night's sleep, and he's prepared to diligently do his work today. Well, let's hope that the markets respond positively after he delivers that long-anticipated budget speech. Well, we've come to the end of our first hour. Don't go away. We'll be back at the top of the next hour. Are we taking a short weather in? Yep, let's go around the continent and have a look at what the weather's like.
SABC News. We report, contextualize and present news and current affairs honestly, fairly and fully. We consider it a duty to provide consistent, relevant, useful and top-quality information and analysis. Our mission is to provide credible, accurate and interesting news programming, bringing news into everyone's homes in everyone's languages. Thank you, South Africa, for relying on SABC News for quality news output and for making us your #1 source of information. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Our eyes are the window to the beautiful wonders of the world, but blindness enhances other senses. Technology has made living with blindness easy.
If you look on the side here, it's got like grooves in there. Yeah. So the first one after when it comes together will be 20 Rand, 50 Rand. And if I slide this in, I can see according to the grooves, it's now on 50 Rand.
To Steve Kekana, blindness was never a hindrance, but a blessing.
You got to know that you are the child of the universe, being blind, and you've got the right to be here.
Join your host, Dr. Sello Mutawun, every Saturday from 9 a.m.
Welcome back. It is 10:00 hours Central Africa time. It is time for Newsroom, the second hour. Welcome to all of you from here and around the globe. My name is Elvis Preston. We will be with you until 12 o'clock today. Now remember that there is a very important question that we posed to you this morning, talking about language policies in universities and language across the board. I'd like to find out from you about our campuses. Why do you think we have our university campuses becoming battlegrounds? That is the question that we want to pose to you. Let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. You can also find us on our Facebook page. If you like us there on the Facebook page, you become part and parcel of this growing family. But right now, let's take a look at all your news headlines. President Jacob Zuma says the budget to be presented will be good for the country and the economy. The expropriation bill to speed up land reform has been passed by the National Assembly. And the World Health Organization chief is visiting Brazil to assess the Zika outbreak. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports field. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Elvis. Quite a lot happening in the sports. In fact, I say good morning to you as well before I carry on. Here's a sneak peek of what we've got for you in the sports today. Kaizer Chiefs missed a chance to close the gap on Sundowns as Polokwane City hold them to a 1-1 draw.
Adding in the numbers. Oh, lovely touch! Deserving of a goal, but great goalkeeping.
And Barcelona's Lionel Messi stars in a 2-0 rout of Arsenal at the Emirates last night.
Across, Lionel Messi, 1-0 Barcelona.
But I'm 100% perfect now. I've been training with the boys last week. The ball's coming up fine. The pace hasn't dropped.
And ahead of the T20 World Cup, Dale Steyn is fit again and ready to take on the world. Be sure to stick around for that in about 20 minutes or so. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. He will be back, as he indicated there. But right now, your top story this hour. President Jacob Zuma says the budget to be presented will be good for the country and the economy. Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan will deliver his speech this afternoon. Yesterday, President Zuma pronounced it is all systems go for today's budget speech in Parliament. The President met with Gordhan as well as the Deputy Finance Minister SABC Jonas yesterday to discuss the final touches to Budget 2016. The budget is seen as Gordhan's toughest challenge. He's expected to raise taxes and cut expenditure. He will also announce how he's going to stimulate growth amid the weakening economy under the watchful eyes of the rating agencies. Now, a short while ago, we caught up with the Finance Minister in Parliament, and this is what he had to say.
No, you can't escape me. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I saw you out the corner of my eye. I just want to know how you're feeling.
Oh, I'm feeling good. I think we have a good budget.
You think so? You're feeling a bit nervous. I mean, everybody's just carrying on about how this is going to be one of the biggest budgets that you've ever done.
I think there's nothing else exciting that's going on, so they're looking for some excitement.
Do you think so?
It looks like.
I think so. I think so. But I mean, what do you do now up until the budget? I mean, it's done. It's finished. We won't take that from you. But I mean,
please don't.
Is it just relaxing now?
No. I've just briefed cabinet colleagues on some of the highlights.
Yeah.
I go to the office and check the speech again.
Yeah.
Then we have a press conference at 10:30. Then I go to the National Assembly and check various logistics.
Yeah.
Then I go back to the office and relax a little bit. and then get ready for you.
And then get ready. And you get ready for me and the rest of the nation, because everybody's waiting with bated breath.
I want to thank everybody for their good wishes.
Yeah, because I think everybody is standing by you on this one. I mean, it's a nerve-wracking one. I mean, you've literally been in the portfolio for 5 weeks. Not that you're a stranger to it, but things changed in those 2 years.
It's a short time. It's a short time to catch up a lot, and there's a very complex environment we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
But with all the goodwill, we'll do our best.
Did you sleep last night?
Yes, very well, thank you.
I'm happy to hear that. I didn't. I'm nervous for you.
No, that's good. At least we can share the burden a bit.
Minister, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
South African Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan faces a difficult challenge today, so says the analyst, and he prepares to announce the national budget speech a little bit later. He will be expected to restore confidence in our economic policy and investment and prevent a recession. Now, from the drought to the Feast Must Fall campaign, as well as the possibility of fuel levies, sin taxes and other tax increases, well, you, as the country, you eagerly are waiting to see and wait that important announcement tonight. Joining us in studio, University of Johannesburg financial and economic expert, Professor Fiona Trangena. A very good morning to you and welcome.
Morning, Elvis.
Now, today's budget announcement, everybody's waiting for that one. Your expectations?
Well, as you said, it's possibly his toughest ever. People always say that the budget is tricky, difficult circumstances, but this year it's for real. He's really between a rock and a hard place, trying to avoid a credit ratings downgrade, whilst at the same time trying to stimulate growth in the economy.
Is that even possible in these dire times that we are? We're sitting in a drought. We are close to junk status, on the brink of that. Is it possible?
I think it is possible, but it goes way beyond the budget. It takes much more than the budget to avoid that. It's going to be a whole combination of policies, economic and non-economic policies that would be needed. But the budget obviously is absolutely central to that.
Do you foresee a lot of significant increases as compared to what happened last year in terms of the budget speech?
Well, I think that the priority needs to be stimulating growth, because our expectations are that growth will be below 1% for the year, so a very stagnant economy. So it doesn't help to present a whole package of austerity measures, and if growth slows even further, it really doesn't help anybody. So I think there's limited scope for borrowing more. Perhaps there will have to be increases in certain taxes, particularly income taxes on high income earners and perhaps some corporate taxes.
The dreaded word tax increases, and somebody mentioned VAT. Could that be a possibility, knowing also that it is an election year, local elections?
It's a possibility. Personally, I hope that they don't go that route, because as we know, VAT hits the poorest hardest. It's a regressive tax. So I think given how unequal South Africa is, and given the fact that people at the top are actually doing okay, there's rather scope for increasing taxes at the top end rather than at the bottom end.
It's been a while now, but we heard about the carbon tax increase for motorists. Is that coming, or is it on the cards already?
I think it is on the cards. It wouldn't raise an enormous amount of revenue, but it does seem to be something being considered.
What else should consumers look out for in this tax announcement tonight? Because I know a lot of people, even earlier when we read some of the comments on the social media pages, they talk about don't increase the sin taxes, but that's definitely going to happen.
I think that happens pretty much every year, so people should be prepared for that. Obviously, people will be following both on the revenue side and on the expenditure side. I think perhaps there might be real cutbacks in social grants, which would be unfortunate, but I think that government is looking to that as a possible way of saving money, and that will obviously hit people directly in the pocket, the people who are recipients of social grants.
Towards the end of last year, we saw a number of changes. The finance minister being changed, the new finance minister coming in. Somebody said 3 finance ministers, if I can count correctly. Well, 3 finance ministers, and that caused a shock to the market. The rand plummeted. Does with this budget also talk to policy certainty from the government's perspective? We also just see now, 1st of March, there were supposed to be the tax changes and tax reforms, and that didn't also happen. Does that speak to policy certainty or not?
There's definitely a need to boost confidence in the economy, investor confidence, consumer confidence as well. So I think that the certainty issue is definitely a big one. I think that just putting measures which are in themselves certain obviously is not enough. It depends what the measures are. And I would be very critical of measures which just sent a message of austerity in an effort to try and reassure markets, but which actually reduced our growth rates.
The drought is coming with all sorts of problems towards the consumer, because there's definitely going to be increases in the price of maize because we need to import. Also, red meat will go up. What do you foresee?
Yeah, I think that the negative effects of the drought on consumers are really still coming. As you say, on maize meal and on meat as well, and it is likely to spin throughout the economy and to hit consumers directly in their pocket. So I think there does need to be some measures from government to assist farmers on a much wider scale than there is already. And even when government considers, for example, social grants and may consider not increasing them in pace with inflation, we'll also have to take into account the effects of the drought on those very same vulnerable consumers.
So the suggestion then is, Fiona, that consumers has got to tighten their belts a little bit tighter this year.
I think that's likely to happen, but at the same time, we don't want to be self-defeating with that, because if consumers spend less, there's less stimulation on the economy because there's less demand on business, and we can get into a vicious cycle of low growth. So I think that just measures of austerity actually won't help us. We actually sometimes need to spend more in order to boost growth, but crucial there is what we spend on. It's got to be productive, stimulating expenditure, not wasteful expenditure.
Fiona, thank you so much for your time and joining us here at studio.
Thanks, Albert.
Now that was University of Johannesburg financial and economic expert Professor Fiona Trengana joining us. But for more on the budget, we're now talking to our SABC's Nompumelelo Sisiba, who is in Cape Town, I think. Nompu, a very good morning to you. Nompu, are you there?
Good morning, Elvis. Thanks very much. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Well, now I can hear you. Nompu, do you have a feeling that today's budget will be decisive and lay a platform for the South African economy and for our prosperity in this country?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be that, but it certainly demands to be that, because we are in a very, very tricky situation. The South African economy is barely growing. The IMF and the World Bank are putting growth below 1% for this year and barely getting above 1% next year. So there needs to be a decisive budget. Pravin Gordhan suggests that indeed he is going to provide the country with that. His challenge, of course, is that he has to try and cater to all the various stakeholders in the economy. Not only in the economy and outside of the economy as well, because you know that international ratings agencies will be looking very closely at how we're doing, how we're managing our finances. And if he's not able to prove himself in that regard, it could mean a strike down on our credit rating, which would take us down to junk status. And of course, we want to avoid that at all costs, because it would mean that in order for us to borrow, it would cost a lot more. And given that we're a developing country, we can't afford to incur massive finances whilst we try and develop, because it just bankrupts the country, basically. And you have less money to put towards other priorities like your education, your policing, etc., etc. So it will need to be decisive. Let's hope it will be.
Nompu, any surprises that we might expect today from Pravin Gordhan?
Look, I think that he is going to have to generate some surprises. I don't think this is going to be a business as usual kind of budget, because he has to ensure that he pulls all the levers to be able to, one, avoid us getting downgraded to junk, and also creating a platform where we can begin to see some potential for economic growth, because right now that doesn't seem to be happening. And there are various areas, I suppose, where he could touch on that. The area of small business, entrepreneurship, that's the area where it's largely said that the country will be able to benefit from job growth if there's an investment in those areas. So maybe we can hear him speak about that sort of thing. Infrastructure development. Often the fraternity of construction often complain that they don't see these contracts coming in the pipeline of infrastructure. Infrastructure needs to happen. If we build our infrastructure going forward, it lays the platform for economic growth. And when people are working and so on, people can benefit from the infrastructure that's laid down. So these are areas that we'd expect him to invest in. Obviously, the DTI, maybe they'll get more funding in terms of being able to invest and giving incentives to the manufacturing sector, which we know has been hard hit of late because of lack of demand and other factors. So there are various areas where he could try and inject some capital in order to spur economic growth. So it's going to have to be a very different budget in this regard.
So what you are saying is that he'll have a balancing act, and a fine balancing act, I might add, that he has to play with today.
Yes, definitely. He does have to play that fine balancing act. But I think it's going to be very difficult. You know how it is that when a budget is presented, not all stakeholders are going to be happy. But he's going to have to do his level best. But I think the key thing, that top box that he has to have ticked, is that we don't get reduced down to junk status, because then it would really take us down the wrong path. And we see countries like Argentina and other developing nations that have been in the doldrums for years, and it takes them absolutely years to get back to some sort of semblance of normality where they can even begin to think about growth. We can't afford to go there. So let's hope that he's able to balance everything.
Now, the ratings agencies will be keeping a very keen eye on them, some of them very poor and standard. What is your expectation that will this budget really give them that confidence that there is more than that meets the eye in South Africa?
Well, I think the Minister and President Jacob Zuma have already started doing the groundwork, by engaging business more. There's been this discussion that there's a trust deficit between business and government and that they haven't been working together very well. But of late, in the past month at least, there's been huge engagement, and there have been a number of point plans that have been put together where government and business have put their ideas together. And obviously now it's a question of implementing those ideas so that going forward we have some sort of semblance of growth prospects and so on. But I think the key element that's been missing in the conversation is obviously labour. I spoke with an economist, Iraja Bedian, a few weeks ago, and he said that if labour is not part of this conversation, then we might as well just, call it a day. So once labour gets on board and everyone is able to compromise, we should see the possibility of us getting onto the right path for growth. But in terms of the actual speech itself, the minister will have to describe how we're going to control our debt, and most specifically the metric of the budget deficit. That needs to come down. So he's going to have to convince the markets, convince the ratings agencies that he's going to be capping expenditure. That promise has already been made in previous budgets. It was made in the medium-term budget as well. Cap on expenditure, and there's an expectation, obviously, to balance the books, that there will be tax increases, your usual sin taxes. There is talk of carbon tax, but in this economic climate, it would be very ill-advised, apparently. That's what many analysts say, because, industry can barely afford to pay taxes, let alone an additional tax like carbon tax. But there will be additional taxes, but he'll have to strike the balance such that as he levies extra taxes, it doesn't put us in a situation where we're on the back foot again in terms of economic growth. Because if you're creating disincentives for people to invest in the economy, then again, you're back to square one.
Mpumelelo Sisiba, thank you so much from Cape Town. They're giving us an update. That's our reporter there. Meanwhile, the expropriation bill has been passed by the National Assembly. It allows for the expropriation of property to speed up land reform. The Democratic Alliance, the FF Plus and the UDM oppose the legislation. Opposition parties and economists have warned that the bill will deter investors, and the DA says that it is at odds with the Constitution. The UDM says the bill will fail constitutional muster and did not do enough to deal with land dispossession before 1913. The Public Works Deputy Minister Jeremy Cronin says the legislation will provide a clear framework for expropriation and fair compensation. The bill must now be agreed to by the National Council of Provinces before President Jacob Zuma can sign it into law. Now we'll take a short break and we'll be back with Kendall Makhamate with your sports news.
Searching for the guy who steps up, way up, the queen of the pop and lock, and whatever this is, the party train conductor, all aboard. The answer is yes, you are that guy, and we salute you, party comrade. Join the movement online.
Preparing for victory requires intense effort and teamwork. When you get to it, there is no turning back, because all eyes are on you. When it's action time, nothing should stand in your way. Sports Live tackles and analyzes all the sport action. This is the home of all your sport news, updates and more. Sports Live weekdays at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back. I'm Kendall Makhamat and I've got your sports at 10:21. Now, Polokwane City have derailed Kaizer Chiefs' chance of keeping in touch with upset Premiership log leaders Mamelodi Sundowns. Hosts Amakhosi were forced to settle for a 1-1 draw against relegation-threatened Polokwane City at the FNB Stadium last night.
The Absa Premiership race has shown teams at the top that their positions are not guaranteed. And with just 9 or 10 games left, it's too early for them to be counting their chickens, because the teams facing relegation are not going to be donating any points. Panic and desperation can lead to teams opening themselves up in defense. Polokwane gave Chiefs a wake-up call when Tobani Mngwango scored in the 31st minute.
Will be a Polokwane City ball, but they won't need it. Malulega's ball onto the near post, beautifully met.
The result for us was not good because we are fighting for 3 points, but away of home against a powerful team like Kaizer Chiefs, we can go home with 1 point.
We did not have the right attitude and the right energy. I thought we could have played a bit quicker without showing any signs of desperation. But instead of having some sense of agency, we were more lethargic, I don't know, for whatever reason.
However, Chiefs did not give them time to celebrate, as they responded almost immediately. For a team that has conceded 33 goals before this match, it was not expected that they would hold Chiefs in defense. The result leaves Chiefs in third place on the log with 39 points, 7 adrift of leaders Sundowns, who will make up the game in hand tonight with a tough clash against Black Aces. Themba Shiba, SABC News.
Tell you what, Amakhosi fans are crying after that. Now, Mamelodi Sundowns could pull even further ahead when they take to the field tonight. Here's a quick look at all the fixtures for the Absolute Premiership. As you can see, the 1-1 draw for City and Chiefs. Free State Stars, they host Ajax Cape Town at Goble Park. All these matches, incidentally, kicking off at 7:30 p.m. Then Mamelodi Sundowns up against the pretenders to the throne, Mpumalanga Black Aces at the Lucas Muripe Stadium. Then Herigwala, scene of the action for the match between Maritzburg United and Tidwest. And staying with football news, Lionel Messi struck twice with 2 late goals at Barcelona, crushed Arsenal's hopes of advancing in the UEFA Champions League last night in the last 16 first leg tie at the Emirates. Now, this match at the Emirates had failed to produce any of the expected fireworks, with the famed and much-feared Emerson trio not quite gelling. It was only in the 71st minute in a counter-attacking blitz that Messi was able to convert pressure into a brilliant goal.
Monreal comes across. Lionel Messi, 1-0 Barcelona. On the break, Arsenal broken.
He followed it up with a penalty, putting Barcelona firmly in charge of the tie.
Messi scores. Barcelona have 2 away goals.
Then Juventus staged a superb comeback against Bayern. First, Müller pounced in across to put the visitors ahead.
Well, you can't say it hasn't been coming.
Then Ian Robben doubled the lead early in the second half.
Works the angle and doubles the lead. Kimmich's touch.
This is before goals from Paul Dybala and substitute Stefanos Turaro drew the host level.
Feel about the game now. Morata heading it into a dangerous area. It's 2-2. What a comeback from Juventus.
And there you are, now looking at the UEFA Champions League fixtures for tonight. As you can see, there's a 2-0 for Arsenal. Lost there, and Juventus drawing 2-0 with Bayern Munich. Tonight, PSV in Eindhoven. They host Atletico Madrid. Manchester City then travel to Kiev to see if they can do one over Dinamo. Now, the Court for Arbitration for Sport has said it will decide tomorrow whether to suspend FIFA's presidential vote after candidate Prince Ali bin Al Hussein filed a case seeking a delay. The Jordanian prince, one of 5 hopefuls, wants transparent voting booths used at Friday's Congress to find a replacement for disgraced former FIFA president Sepp Blatter. Meanwhile, Gianni Infantino, another running candidate and president of UEFA, fresh from his visit to Robben Island, is confident about his prospects to win the election.
We'll see on Friday.
How confident?
Definitely, yeah. No, I am. Of course, I'm confident. I'm very confident about the situation as it is now, and the discussions I'm having with the leaders of many associations make me feel even more confident. So I hope to have some more than 105.
Approaches fast bowler Dale Steyn will make his return to competitive cricket when he plays for Western Province Cricket Club in a Premier League fixture against St Augustine Cricket Club over the weekend. Sidelined by a shoulder injury, Steyn has not played international cricket since December last year, but he's determined to be ready for next month's 3 T20 internationals against Australia, as well as the ICC World 2020 in India.
Now, unfortunately, I'd been given and set aside 8 weeks to sort out the shoulder. Often these things, if you come back from these things, can result in spending a lot more time on the sideline, even up to 8 months on the sideline. After all, my right shoulder is the business part of what I do. I'm a right-arm bowler, so I really need to look after it. It's not like a groin or a hamstring, which if I injure it, can take a while, but that's muscular. This is more bone. So, if you mess around with something like a bone, it can take up to 8 months or even a year. And in some cases, some bowlers have never really recovered from these things. I've been fortunate that I got my 8 weeks to bite the nail and just go for it and do the time. But I'm 100% perfect now. I've been training with the boys last week. The ball's coming out fine. The pace hasn't dropped. The action is fine. You do what I do for the last 12 years. Muscle memory tends to kick in. So I'm feeling strong. Spent a lot of time in the gym. I'm as fit as a fiddle. And as excited as I was the first day I got my shirt to represent South Africa to go again. So looking forward to this ICC event in Australia just before that.
Certainly good news for all Proteas fans. Now, the Eastern Cape Super Rugby franchise, the Southern Kings, have named their team for the tournament opener against the Durban-based Sharks. A number of the players will be familiar to the Eastern Cape faithful when the side runs out in the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium over the weekend. The preparation for their re-entry into Super Rugby has been far from ideal, as financial problems at Eastern Province Rugby led to the Super Rugby franchise being taken over by SARU.
Captained by Stephen Sykes, he is one of the stalwarts of the 2013 Southern Kings Super Rugby side. The side boasts some experienced players, but also a number of debutants. The takeover by SARU resulted in not all the EP Kings players securing Super Rugby contracts. The Eastern Province Rugby Union is also facing a liquidation application following the non-payment of players. But the state of affairs seems not to have hampered their preparation.
We'll have a bigger never say die attitude. I think the guys really grew together. We want to play and we want to show everybody that we're here to play rugby and we're here to play as a team. So I think from the guys that's here that played in 2013 and the guys that's still here, I think you can expect something special from them.
The Southern Kings will start their campaign with 3 o'clock kick-off on Saturday. Zolani Moya, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
Something I can tell you, this promises to be a cracker of a weekend. What with Super Rugby coming back to our screens for all rugby fans, it's going to be a good one. Now, this is where we take a break. We're done with the sports. Evan Janssen is standing by to give you more news as well as analysis. Stay close.
Children's rights in health are a priority in the journey of good health.
All children should have access to adequate health care, not only curative but preventative as well.
How to identify ADHD on children.
ADHD is a childhood disorder which manifests with the symptoms of hyperactivity, impulsivity, and or inattention.
Is breastfeeding still a vital nutrition to babies even today?
Breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life is absolutely crucial.
Catch Health Talk with Dr. Sello Mutawun every Saturday from 9 till 10 a.m.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom here on SABC News. Now, I can confirm that police continues to maintain a strong presence at the main campus on the University of the Free State in Bloemfontein this morning. The university has been rocked by racial clashes in recent times. This after students joined university workers in protests against outsourcing. Now, for the latest on the situation on the University of Free State campus, let's cross live to our reporter Mbali Sibanyoni, who is on the Bloemfontein campus. She's standing by with Fandi van der Walt from the CRC Church and also a student pastor there. But Mbali, before you do your interview, just give us a quick update. What is happening on the campus?
Well, the situation is pretty calm right now here at the University of the Free State following a very high racial tensions. Some students have rather opted to participate in a prayer session and unite as one, black and white. And just a meter away, we still have some students and workers who are participating in the outsourcing protest. Now, joining us here today, we have Fandi van der Walt, and he's from the CRC Church here in Bloemfontein, and he's a student pastor, and he'll just tell us more about why some students have opted to gather here at the campus. Now, Fandi, can you just let us know, why have you guys opted to pray during this time?
We've opted to pray. Listen, we come from a church, CLC, under the leadership of Pastor Adam Pasnoreta, which has been established, and when it was established 20 years ago, when it was established as a multi-generational and a multicultural church. So every Sunday we see this in our church. We see people coming together of all races, all generations, and just worshiping God. And we know we want that same unity that we experience in church, we want the same unity on campus.
And when did these prayer sessions start?
We actually started on Monday. We gathered a few of our leaders just to diffuse the situation after the event on Shimla Park. We just took some of our leaders and we just diffused the situation so that there was, just to stop the violence or just to get the people to calm down. just to think what they're doing. Just told them, listen, it's not worth losing your degree. Just think about what you're doing. You may throw someone with a brick now, you may have a cut and then stitches for 10 days, but then you lose your degree, his scar is healed, so it's just not worth it. So we just diffused it on Monday, then we started to pray on Monday, and then we went from last night, we started to pray, and then we came back this morning praying and trusting God.
And how long are you guys going to be sticking around here for?
No, we'll be here the whole day. Yeah, no, we'll pray the whole day.
All right, thank you. Now, the university did indicate earlier on that campus will be shut down for about 2 days, and now they're saying that they will be sending out a press statement much later on today just to tell us about the way forward and when classes will resume at this campus. But outsourcing protests are still continuing today. It's back to you in studio.
Yeah, thank you very much to you, Mbali. Of course, we'll keep you updated as to how matters develop on the University of the Free State campus. It's a hotbed of activity this morning, most of it positive, it seems. We were talking about scriptures. Now, according to religious scriptures, at the beginning of time, we were once seen as pure, complete, unique, and not constrained or divided by cultural rules and practice, much unlike the society we live in today. Now, from the author of The Global Phenomenon, The Shack, comes a beautiful, heartfelt novel exploring the myth around Eve. Joining us in studio now is world-renowned author, Mr. William Paul Young.
It's great to be here. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Firstly, it's an honor to be with you today. But the premise of your new novel, The Myth Around Eve, just put us in the picture, your views on that.
This is a 40-year project for me. I grew up evangelical fundamental, and so one of the questions that always was a part of my life growing up was, how do we deal with the massive devastation that we have brought upon this planet in our relationships with each other? And much of it, if not the majority of it, has been perpetrated by men.
Yeah.
And it's easy to support. And so the question is, where did we go sideways? And I think if we go back to our stories of origin, we find a basis for having a different conversation. And I think we adapted a very male-dominated mythology about the scriptures. I'm not opposed to what the scriptures in the text say. I've spent 40 years working on it. But I'm saying, you know what, I think we missed the narrative. I think there's a way to look at the contents of this story that will change the conversation that we're having now.
You're saying to me that inequality is almost an inherent thing with men. We almost accept it without thinking about this. Do we need to change this paradigm as men?
Absolutely. I think we lost ourselves as soon as we turned away from face-to-face relationship with God, and we turned to the ground and the works of our hands. And in the Genesis story, the woman turns to the man and the man turns to the ground. So at least she turns to a relationship, which is much more like the character and nature of God. The man turns to the ground, and everything becomes about power, territory, politics, the establishment of ownership.
Dominance.
Yes, and then when men turn to relationship, they also treat relationships in terms of power and property and ownership. And I think we're in a massive transition. We have been for the last 30 years for sure. It's a different planet than when I was young. And this conversation is coming to the fore, and I think women and children have always called men back to their humanity. I think this story supports that.
In South Africa, we have a very unique situation. Yeah. We're dealing with all of these problems. I'm sure if you watch our media, you see the issues that we face in South Africa. One of the issues we find really disturbing is we've got very high numbers, rape numbers.
Yes.
Domestic abuse and violence numbers. We dealt with that yesterday. How do we, in your opinion, how do you overcome this kind of thing?
Well, I've been listening to the show as I've been waiting, and I've heard different viewpoints about the issues that you're facing with the universities. And Dr. Leonard was talking about structural and hierarchical systems, which is true. We've got an infrastructure that needs to be challenged, but I don't think violence is the way to do it. We've got to find a different way to figure out what we have in common and then move forward from there. So I think in terms of the violence against women, we're dealing with the larger paradigm of the human heart. And until we start to understand the truth of our being that was there before the fall or whatever happens in the beginning of Genesis, prior to that, We're a very good creation. And we need to see that as the basis for our relationships moving forward. I am pure of heart. I'm not going to violate anybody.
I like that. Now, The Shack.
Yes.
The Shack is going to be made into a major motion picture this year. It comes out in November, you've just told me. The key question that came out of that for me was, where is God in a world so filled with unspeakable pain?
Absolutely.
That's the premise and the key question.
And
it's something that faces us now.
Yeah. And the biggest loss is the loss between a parent and a child. If we want to talk about what we have in common, let's talk about loss. And let's talk about love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more common than language, than politics, than economics, is loss. We share loss together. And so if we can have that conversation moving forward, it's going to be different. And The Shack exactly was inside that space. Part of the way that I dealt with it, because I'm dealing with my own history of brokenness, is to say, you know what, I think God has a very high view of humanity. That is why we're allowed to do the kind of damage that we do. This is not a God who forces you to do the right thing, but climbs into the mess with us, which I think is the message of the cross. We created the cross. God didn't. Right? God didn't originate the darkness of the cross. We did.
Yeah.
And this is Jesus who comes and submits himself to our iconic, devastating machine of torture, and by submitting to it, defeats it. And then that is a God who joins us. And so in our own relationships and in our own hearts, that transformation has to take place.
The human condition can often be quite fatalistic.
And deterministic.
Yes, and what do you think, in conclusion, what is next for us? Or what should be next for us?
The kinds of conversations that people are desiring to have is absolutely critical, where I'm not dealing with just an ideology across the aisle. I'm dealing with a human being. You know, let's talk about our families first and become human to each other rather than dehumanizing each other with categories. I think we're in the century of the woman. I think that is a call back to our humanity. I think that there's been incredible inequity that needs to be adjusted, and we need to move forward because men don't know who they are apart from the relationships that they have and what women bring in terms of the centrality of relationship at what really transforms our heart. And then that can spread to our conversations about how do we do this structurally, how do we move forward.
Maybe we need to realize we can only find ourselves through our partners in this pursuit.
Yeah, and our children, and our grandchildren, and our enemies' children.
Thank you very much for joining us. Very, very deep, but very real this morning. Mr. William Paul Young, thank you very much for joining us.
An honor to be here.
All the best with a feature motion picture coming out at the end of the year, and I hope that Eve also does as well as The Shack did. I'm sure it will.
Thank you. Thank you. Blessings.
Thank you very much for joining us. Of course, a quick look now at what is happening on our Facebook page. As you know, the world that we're in keeps going. Now, South Africa's main House of Parliament took a first step yesterday towards enabling the state to make compulsory purchases of land to redress racial disparities in land ownership here in South Africa. Also, of course, the Minister of Finance, Pravin Gordhan, presents his very first budget speech for 2016-17 today under his new term. He'll be under intense scrutiny later this afternoon. Finally, the government of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and rebel groups accepted a plan for a cessation of hostilities to begin on Saturday, and the US warned that it would be hard to hold the country together if the fighting did not stop. Now for a quick look at the front pages from around the African continent. We'll start in Angola with the Jornal de Angola. Reports that the Vice President of the Republic, Manuel Vicente, will today speak at the Conference on Private Investment in the Great Lakes region, which runs until tomorrow in Kinshasa to mobilize investors to finance infrastructure projects in the region. Then we move to Zambia, where the Post says Inspector General of Police Kakoma Kanganja says he is ready to go to court and defend the manner in which the police are applying the Public Order Act in the country. Finally, we go to Lesotho, where the Express Sunday reports that Lesotho Flour Mills has increased maize meal, flour and livestock feed prices by around 10% due to skyrocketing input costs. That's according to the company's Managing Director Ron Mills. Of course, all of it very much related to the ongoing drought here in South Africa, causing food prices. And I can tell you food prices in the next month will take another massive leap forward. Now, we ask a question today: why have our university campuses become battlegrounds? And SABC Newsroom is where we would like you to interact with us. Now, to conclude this segment, it's around 11:15 now. Here on Newsroom, we are passionate about conservation. Rhino and elephant poaching is a major concern in Southern Africa, with more than 1,000 rhino mowed down last year once again. Despite the recent report on rhino poaching suggesting that there's been an overall decrease in the statistics, the situation remains dire. There are several solutions to this situation, such as rhino farming. It's been put forward. There's also the legal trade of domestic rhino horn, to tracking devices and drones to monitor areas and parks. Now, but our wildlife heritage will only be preserved if we can get young people across the board in Southern Africa to get involved in conservation and feel passionate about it. I'm joined in studio this morning by Youth for African Wildlife representative Fortunate Parker. Good morning.
Good morning, Ian.
Now, before we get about what you guys do, tell us, do you think there's enough of an appetite amongst young people in South Africa, Southern Africa, and the wider world to save species for tomorrow?
I would say no, but it is growing, much promising. It's becoming cooler now to be a greenie beanie.
A greenie beanie?
Yeah, that's what we are called.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's becoming cooler now, which is a good thing, which means the movement will grow and we have a better chance of saving these endangered wildlife.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a massive concern. Now, you are involved with Youth for African Wildlife. Tell us what Youth for African Wildlife is all about and what you guys hope to achieve.
In a nutshell, Youth for African Wildlife raises awareness of the plight of endangered species through social media, experiential research, photography, and filmmaking. We also contribute to species protection by donating to organizations that protect species.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our awareness drives is working with local communities to sort of help make a connection between conservation and our lives.
Now, one of the programs that you offer and involved in is wildlife photography. Tell us about this. Obviously, it's more than just a hobby that you wish to introduce people to.
Yes. What we're doing is through photography and other methods, we are hoping to get people to connect to conservation. I mean, if you love photography already and we take you out there and we show you that through photography you can make a difference, you can raise awareness, and we get you to love these animals that you should be loving anyway, we have one part of the fight that we have won.
Now, there are many aspects to conservation, lots of different organizations and so forth involved. Tell us about your choice to join this particular organization with a keen focus so much on young people.
I mean, my thing with Youth for African Wildlife is that the mess that we live in right now was created by our fathers and our forefathers.
Mm-hmm.
So if conservation organization continue speaking to our fathers and our forefathers, then that will not work because they are not the future. And another thing is decisions are made without the youth. So me being with Youth for African Wildlife is me saying no. Consider us when you make decisions because these decisions are about our future and not yours.
How much of an impact are you seeing the programs that you're involved in having on young people? And I want to extend that to young people, to communities living in and around parks, because without those communities' involvement, we won't be able to really make an impact or conserve our wildlife.
We're having quite a big impact, especially on international youth. We have some that went on to become National Geographic ambassadors and explorers. We have some that have their own conservation channels and photography websites. And locally, we are still getting started. we hope to, as you said, work with communities in and around national reserves. And I'm also tying that in with my master's project. So it's basically community upliftment from both sides.
In this space, what are some of the anecdotes or some of the really interesting stories that have stood out for you thus far?
The one that always happens is I get a question, why do you work with animals? And I go back to them and ask, why not animals? And they said, no, they can live by themselves. I'm like, yeah, they can live by themselves, but we've messed up so much of this world that we need to step in. And without them, we can't survive. Unfortunately, they can survive without us.
People don't realize how important our environment has become and how important it is for us to be involved. It's wonderful to see young people like yourself taking that sort of responsibility. But tell us about your events that you've got coming up for the year, and what's your plea out there to young people and to the public? What would you like? What would you like from them? How would you like them to see them get involved in these kinds of programs?
In terms of events that we have for the year, we're looking to be part of COP17 that will be happening in September. And we also have another international internship coming up. And on a more personal level, I'll be training people to become frogging guides. That's the events for the year. And my plea is, I don't know where to start, but to the youth out there, let's stand up and make a difference. Basically, we have people coming into South Africa, killing our wildlife, basically dictating what we should do with our land. Why not stand up and say, no, you can't do this. This is our land. We run it according to our terms.
Fortunate, thank you very much for joining us today, a man behind you there that's very passionate about young people and about wildlife, the environment and so forth. Is Tsietse Monari. Tsietse, before you give us a weather update, just give us your ideas about getting young people involved in conservation, in anti-poaching drives and so forth, and how important that is for us to win this overall war.
Yeah, well, first we need to create the interest. If we need to show the importance of nature conservation and actually any other conservation that you can think of, from oceans to biodiversity and our animal species out there. And we also need to show them that this is about their future. It's not just because we love having rhinos here and there, but we need to preserve them. Our children, I would like to have children in the next 50 years or so, and I'd like them to see what a rhino look like. I don't want them to see into a picture or on the internet what it looked like. So that's basically why. And just like with all the sports, we need to create the interest.
In order to have children in the next 50 years, you might have to find a girlfriend first.
You see, I have to start there. 25 years to find a girlfriend, 25 years to engage in reproduction. Huh?
Okay, give us the weather then.
Hi there, welcome from the weather desk. So it looks like we're expecting possibilities of some thunderstorms only towards the northwestern parts of the central regions of southern Africa, as well as over the central regions of Botswana, some parts of Gauteng in the South African part, and going down to the northwest province. And then over the Karoo, please do look out for possibilities of a high fire danger, and those could lead to temperatures being sky high, especially if you're going to be in Grafri Net, towards some parts of the Northern Cape province and all the way up into the southern part of Namibia. So temperatures are expected to heat up. Upington, in fact, will go as high as around 37 degrees. Rainy weather for tomorrow as well towards the eastern side, especially over the Eastern Cape province. And then we're seeing those scattered showers moving across the northeastern escarpment and over the interior towards the northwest province. You should expect the rainy conditions along there. In terms of your temperatures, it is going to be quite hot, as I mentioned. Upington at 37 degrees, Pretoria 32, and we're seeing those upper 20s for Lusaka, as well as over Harare. Beira still slightly cooler at 31 degrees. Partly cloudy skies are expected for much of South Africa and Southern Africa. And then we're seeing rainy conditions for Brazzaville, going up to Libreville, Yaoundé, including Bangui. In the Central African Republic, do expect isolated and a mixture of scattered showers spreading all across into Kampala, into Kigali, and definitely all the way into Addis Ababa. Temperatures for Addis Ababa are going to be quite warm as well, at 24 degrees, partly cloudy skies, and a good chance of rain is expected there. The 30s are expected from Kinshasa right through Luanda, going up north into Yaoundé, and then upper 30s for Bangui, as well as over Juba, and have a look at place such as northern Sudan. That's where it's going to get much hotter, especially over Khartoum. Kampala is at 27, 26 for Kigali, and again, those lower 30s are expected along the east coast of Africa. Along the Horn of Africa, you should expect those temperatures to continue rising for the next couple of hours. Clear conditions for the central regions, especially as you now move into the Sahara Desert, as well as over the Faroes. It is expected to remain slightly warmer now. A bit of sunny skies coming in there. It looks like summer is approaching. So warmer conditions coming in. We're seeing lower 20s for Cairo, Benghazi, and Tripoli still into the upper teens. So nice and cool weather is expected there. Seba 26, 32 for Al Juf, and Agadez peaking at 33 degrees. It is going to be quite hot and dry for Bamako as well as over Dakar. Only a little bit of clouds will be coming in just along the coastal parts for Abidjan as well as over Lagos, moving on into Yaoundé in Cameroon. Otherwise, temperatures are going to go rocketing sky high for Bamako, 40 degrees. The mercury doesn't stop there. Jambena goes to 39, 38 for Naimi. Marrakech is much cooler at 23. Still sunny skies for Algiers as well as over Rabat. So the northern parts of Morocco are much cooler, but the minute you move down to the southern regions, it gets a lot warmer. Temperatures going there as high as 23 degrees. This is where I leave it for the weather. Weather at sabc.co.za. That's where you can communicate with us. Otherwise, find us on Twitter at SABC Online. Stay tuned. There'll be more later.
Our eyes are the window to the beautiful wonders of the world, but blindness enhances other senses. Technology has made living with blindness easy.
If you look at the side here, it's got like grooves in there. Yeah. So the first one after when it comes together will be at 20 Rand, 50 Rand. And if I slide this in, I can see according to the grooves, it's now on 50 Rand.
To Steve Kekana, blindness was never a hindrance, but a blessing.
You got to know that you are the child of the universe, being blind, and you've got the right to be here.
Join your host, Dr. Sello Mutawun, every Saturday from 9 a.m. According to the World Health Organization, the number of people who are obese doubled between 1980 and 2008. Furthermore, 35% of adults over the age of 20 are obese. More than 2 in 3 adults are considered to be overweight or obese. More than 1 in 3 adults are considered to be obese. More than 1 in 20 adults are considered to have extreme obesity. Furthermore, 35% of adults over the age of 20 are obese. In 2010, overweight and obesity were estimated to cause 3.4 million deaths, Lancet reports in 2013. South Africa has the highest overweight and obesity rate in sub-Saharan Africa, with up to 70% of women and a third of men being classified as overweight or obese. A staggering 40% of women in our country are obese, according to the Heart and Stroke Foundation. The bulk of our population used to be physically active, particularly in 1970 to 1999, and ate a diet high in fiber and indigenous vegetables, low in animal protein and refined carbs. However, due to increased urbanization, people are adopting a more westernized diet, high in unhealthy fats, sugar, and salt. Greater disposable income and a faster-paced lifestyle have resulted in people consuming more fast foods and convenient foods, according to the European Association for the Study of Obesity. The Department of Health realizes the seriousness of the obesity crisis and has included this in the National Non-Communicable Diseases Strategic Goals to assist with the obesity problem and increase physical activity by 10% by 2020, reduce the consumption of alcohol by 20% by 2020, reduce the percentage of people who are obese and overweight by 10% by 2020. Obesity has a significant impact on health and well-being. It may also burden a person's workplace abilities. Workers who are obese may need longer rest breaks to return to their initial state of muscle function. 2.6 million people die each year as a result of being overweight or obese, according to the World Health Organization.
This situation demands urgent strategic action encompassing a wide range of sectors, including those responsible for food and beverage production, manufacturing, marketing, and retail.
Obesity has major implications for the healthcare systems in South Africa as they are faced with increasing demands of care for health conditions related to obesity, overweight such as diabetes mellitus, osteoarthritis, cancers, and major cardiovascular diseases. There is no single cause of all overweight and obesity. There is no single approach to treating or preventing it. Treatments may include a mix of behavioral diet, exercise, and sometimes weight loss drugs. In some cases of extreme obesity, weight loss surgery may be an option.
It's 10:00 hours Central African time on this Wednesday, the 24th of February 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404. If you've just joined us, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome as we broadcast live from Auckland Park Studio, Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us as we broadcast live from our studios. Question today: why have our university campuses become a battleground? That's the question to you. Let us know on our Facebook page as well as on our Twitter page. But before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning.
Well, good morning, Elvis. Quite a lot happening on the sports front. A lot of it was last night, and we're looking forward to some things happening tonight as well. Good morning. Here's what's happening in the sports headlines. Okay, it seems like we're not going to do sports right now.
Well, President Jacob Zuma says the budget to be presented will be good for the country and the economy. The expropriation bill to speed up land reform has been passed by the National Assembly. And the World Health Organization chief is visiting Brazil to assess the Zika outbreak. Well, Kendall Makamate will be back a little bit later with your sports news to give you more, but so hang on in there. He'll tell you more about that a little bit later. Let's now start with our top story this morning. President Jacob Zuma says the budget to be presented will be good for the country and the economy. Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan will deliver the speech this afternoon. Yesterday, the President pronounced it is all systems go for today's budget speech in Parliament. The President met with Gordhan as well as the Deputy Finance Minister SABC Jonas yesterday to discuss the final touches to Budget 2016. The budget is seen as Gordhan's toughest challenge. He's expected to raise taxes and cut expenditure. He will also announce how he's going to stimulate growth amid the weakening economy under the watchful eyes of the rating agencies. Now, a short while ago, we caught up with the Finance Minister in the morning in Parliament, and this is what he had to say.
No, you can't escape me. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I saw you out the corner of my eye. I just want to know how you're feeling.
Oh, I'm feeling good. I think we have a good budget.
Oh, you think so? You're feeling a bit nervous. I mean, everybody's just carrying on about how this is going to be one of the biggest budgets that you've ever done.
I think there's nothing else exciting that's going on, so they're looking for some excitement.
Do you think so?
It looks like.
I think so. I think so. But I mean, what do you do now up until the budget? I mean, it's done. It's finished. We won't take that from you. But I mean,
please don't.
Is it just relaxing now?
No, I've just briefed cabinet colleagues on some of the highlights.
Yeah.
I go to the office and check the speech again.
Yeah.
Then we have a press conference at 10:30. Then I go to the National Assembly and check various logistics.
Yeah.
Then I go back to the office and relax a little bit, and then get ready for you.
And then get ready, and you get ready for me and the rest of the nation, because everybody's waiting with bated breath.
I want to thank everybody for their good wishes.
Yeah, because I think everybody is standing by you on this one. I mean, it's a nerve-wracking one. I mean, you've literally been in the portfolio for 5 weeks. Not that you're a stranger to it, but things changed in those 2 years.
It's a short time. It's a short time to catch up a lot, and there's a very complex environment we find ourselves in.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But with all the goodwill, we'll do our best.
Did you sleep last night?
Yes, very well, thank you.
I'm happy to hear that. I didn't. I'm nervous for you.
No, that's good. At least we can share the burden a bit.
Minister, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Now remember, all SABC public service stations will broadcast the Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan's budget speech in Parliament live as from 2 o'clock. You can also catch it on SABC2 and SABC News, channel 404 on DSTV. So you have to stay tuned to your favorite channel right here on channel 404, but this is Newsroom. Let's move on now. The expropriation bill has been passed by the National Assembly. It allows for the expropriation of property to speed up land reform. The DA, FF+, and the UDM opposed the legislation. Opposition parties and economists have warned that the bill will deter investors, and the DA says it is at odds with the Constitution. The UDM says the bill will fail constitutional muster and did not do enough to deal with land dispossession before 1913. Public Works Deputy Minister Jeremy Cronin says the legislation will provide a clear framework for expropriation and fair compensation. The bill must now be agreed to by the National Council of Provinces before President Zuma can sign it into law. Police continued to maintain a strong presence at the main campus of the University of the Free State in Bloemfontein. The university has been rocked by racial clashes. This after students joined the university workers in protest against outsourcing.
Armed and ready to go if the need arises. This comes fresh against the backdrop of clashes between protesters and rugby spectators. On campus, calm has returned. However, students continue to sing and chant. Others are choosing to go home until the situation gets back to normal.
I'm leaving because I don't really feel safe here, so I've decided to go home. I'll come back when situations has calmed down.
Just outside the campus, these youths say they are ready to assist those who want to get to safety.
We're here to just get everybody out and get them to safety. No matter who it is, we just want to get everybody to safety.
There was a few people that called me and asked me can I help them, and now just like about 10 or 20 minutes ago they came out, some of them, and got lifts.
In the midst of the tensions and uncertainty, this group of students gathered to pray for peace and calm to return.
We'd like to see that there's just peace on campus, peace and unity and restoration. That's why the people came out. It's just students trusting God so that people will just get united. There will be no violence.
UFS Rector Jonathan Jansen has expressed disgust at the behavior of spectators who attacked protesters, but also maintains that the pitch invasion was unacceptable. Jansen says they are gathering evidence to pursue charges against those involved. Bale Samweti, SABC News, Bloemfontein.
Amnesty released its annual State of the World's Human Rights warning that global rights are in jeopardy with a variety of assaults on freedoms and the laws and system that protect them. Now, this according to the rights group's annual report. Now, the World Health Organization Director General Margaret Chan says Brazil is doing a good job tackling the Zika virus. Chan is visiting the South American country to assess the Zika outbreak in the country. The WHO declared the Zika outbreak, which has spread to more than 30 countries, an international health emergency earlier this month.
Chen says the Brazilian government is doing all it can to mobilize society in fighting the Aedes mosquito. The insect transmitted the virus that has spread rapidly through the Americas since last year. The virus has been linked in Brazil to an alarming surge in the birth of babies with abnormally small heads. Brazil's health ministry says that the number of confirmed and suspected cases of microcephaly has risen recently. Brazilian authorities are scrambling to contain the outbreak, which threatens to keep visitors from attending the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro in 5 months' time. Meanwhile, Cuban President Raul Castro has dispatched 9,000 soldiers to help keep the Zika virus out of the country. Castro is calling on all Cubans to strengthen sanitation efforts to prevent the spread of the disease. In the U.S., health officials are investigating whether 14 new Zika virus infections may have been transmitted through sex, raising questions about the role of sex in spreading a disease that has been linked to birth defects in Brazil.
Now that's all the news we have for you for now. After the break, we'll give you your regional outlook.
COSA, Southern Africa's leading distance learning institution, accredited, affordable and accessible management education programs, higher certificates, diplomas, undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. Register at ManCosa and be part of Southern Africa's leading private business school. Visit our website mancosa.co.za. ManCosa, management education reimagined.
Technology isn't all scary. There's also fun stuff like gaming.
Lots of women do play games, whether it's on their phones or their tablets.
Then there are Africans who are using new tools to make other people's lives much easier.
We typed the whole CV on a small, QWERTY Nokia phone.
For all these and other technology and social media news, join me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC News.
As stories are broken around the world, SABC makes sure you do not miss out. As the stories unfold throughout the day, News at 8 updates all newsworthy stories worldwide. Globally, we are there. Locally, we leave no story untold. Make a date with News at 8 every Saturday and Sunday on SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Welcome back. The Independent Electoral Commission has postponed all by-elections around the country scheduled for today. The IEC says they took the decision following the orders of the Electoral Court yesterday to postpone the by-elections. The IEC says the Electoral Commission considered a postponement in the interest of free and fair elections, noting that all by-elections share similar circumstances as those ordered for a postponement by the court. One of the by-elections that was supposed to be held today was at the Tlokwe municipality in the northwest.
Independent candidates are in a celebratory mood. They maintain that the IEC has failed to correctly interpret the ruling of the Constitutional Court. The IEC initially said that the court only ordered it to provide addresses for people who were registered after November 2015 ruling.
For so many years they've been running elections, but they needed to understand today how elections ought to be run in this country.
The IEC in the province says they will study the court ruling first.
Judgment is still being considered, so it would not be prudent for me to second guess what step will be taken from here.
The DA believes that this will limit any further wrongdoings in as far as elections are concerned.
I think it's going to be very difficult for the IEC in future, or for any party, especially with the local government registrations on the 5th and 6th of March, to allow for any funny business to happen.
The ANC welcomed the decision of the court, but says it is ready to contest Ward 13, the only ward where elections will take place.
Our forces are on the ground. They are ready for a victorious win over our opponents.
The Tlokwa Local City Council has 52 seats and 7 are currently vacant. The ANC has 22 seats, while the DA-led joint opposition has 23. A political analyst at the Northwest University says Tlokwe may be heading for a hung council.
If the ANC win the election, then we have a stalemate with 23-23, and it will be an interesting dynamic to have this scenario in the build-up to the national elections.
The court has set aside the certification of voters' roll. It has also ordered the IEC to provide all candidates with copies of the voters' roll, which contain fiscal addresses of all registered voters. Kabelo Molopi, SABC News, Potchefstroom.
Now, to get the latest from Potchefstroom, we're joined in the northwest by our SABC reporter Tsolofelo Matabedi. Tsolofelo, a very good morning to you. And can you just paint us a brief picture, because we believe you do have two guests there with you. Paint us a brief picture of what's happening there this morning in Tlokwe.
Good morning, Elvis. I'm standing in Primosa, Ward 13. This is the ward that was supposed to be going for by-elections today. But as you know, this morning we woke up about news that the IEC has actually taken a decision to halt all by-elections throughout the country, including in this ward. And when we came in this morning, there were people that were already here trying to cast their ballots. We saw members of the ANC and members of the DA outside of this polling station in Primosa saying that they were ready. That means early morning there was a bit of confusion and, accusations and counter-accusations from the one side, the DA, and then from the ANC. And with me here is Mr. Taiwo Oyemi, who is one of the observers that was supposed to be here to help out with the by-elections in this ward. Mr. Oyemi, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir, can you just tell us what organization you're from and what were you coming to do here?
As we earlier said, my name is Taiwo Oyemi. I'm representing Gractaps Foundation. We are here as an accredited observer for today's election.
And Mr. Oyemi, can you just take us through what then happened? We're talking about incidents that then transpired last night or last evening to today in the morning.
Last night we read and we heard from IEC that Ward 1, Ward 11, Ward 20, Ward 18 and 16 will be postponed, excluded the Ward 13, which is where we are today. But unfortunately, we were already on our way from Johannesburg. On getting to Ward 13 this morning, when we got here, we were told by the people we met here, they said it has been postponed. They are not sure whether it's going to carry on, or we said, okay, let's wait and see. But unfortunately, there is no news like per se to say, or someone from IEC to inform either the DA or the ANC or the voters, or for myself and my crews to say is on or is off. But later, we found out the more we spent time, the more we had so many informations, then there was a time that it was posted on one of the members here that no, IEC, they've actually cancelled the election, postponed the election.
And then what sort of report will you be taking through to your organization, the organization that ensured that you are here today to do this?
Okay. What I've observed here right now and previously since we arrived, I will send that report to IEC that sent us here. But one or two things that I would just like to say is that the voters here, they are ready for the elections. They were happy that they were excluded initially, but later they were included, so they were not happy. We observed a very just little minor clash between the DA and the ANC. They nearly fight, singing provocative songs. I know maybe that's part of it, but they were not happy generally.
Mr. Taiwo Oyemi, who was here as an observer. And with me again, it's Mr. Andre Duvenage, or Professor Andre Duvenage from the Northwest University. Professor Duvenage has been keeping tabs on events that have been transpiring in this by-elections. Prof, you must be some sort of a fortune teller, because yesterday you actually somewhat called it to say this might happen.
Solofelo, indeed, if you follow the procedures, if you look at the outcome of the court cases, it was clear that we have a problem. And saying this, it was also clear that the by-elections cannot continue. Unfortunately, this incident of the last day will have a knock-on effect on other elections as well. And the big conclusion at this point is that the IEC is not ready and good prepared for the elections. Now, if we take into consideration that elections should take place in 257 local structures, more or less 25,000 wards, there's a big task lying ahead. And the big question will be, can the IEC get the voters' roll ready for all these elections? And if we follow the pattern of the by-election, unfortunately, the IEC is not ready. And I am afraid at some point in time, we may enter a phase of instability because the voters are very much dissatisfied with the process.
And what does it mean generally for the IEC going forward, this incident?
Well, it is clear, coming from 2013, we have noticed some problems in other areas as well, that the IEC is finding it difficult to deliver free and fair elections. If we look at the Constitutional Court case of end of last year, the specifications were very specific. They said you need a complete voters' roll with names, ID numbers, addresses. And this didn't happen with regard to the by-elections. My assessment is that the IEC must go home. They must re-prepare themselves. Otherwise, we are not going to have free and fair elections. In that sense, today is a very negative day for our democracy, for the IEC, and for elections.
And what will this mean? Or will this have like a direct bearing to the local government elections that are coming in August?
Yes, there will definitely be a lot of questions about the role of the IEC, their ability to deliver free and fair elections. Also, I believe there will be a strong check on all the voters' rolls. And I think maybe this is a good process to the extent that we may end up with better and more complete voters' roll, and then at the end get a free and fair election going.
The Tlokwe by-elections, they've been called off, or they have been suspended for 6 weeks. To the IEC have said this message, or have delivered this message earlier on today, and there's a lot of apprehension from all sides, from the ANC, from the DA, from independents, but more the independents are in a celebratory mood, calling this a victory, saying they've always been saying that there are discrepancies in their voters' roll, and they believe that their case have been heard. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Solofelo Matabedi, our reporter on the scene there. And as you can hear, that is what transpired late last night, a very late announcement by the IEC. Meanwhile, a new political party, which was established at Uppington in the Northern Cape, will contest the 2016 local government elections. The Khoisan Revolution says it will focus on issues facing people in general. The party was recently launched and is registered with the IEC.
Good morning and welcome to Uppington in the Northern Cape. We're broadcasting to you from Khoisan Valley in Uppington. About 200 kilometers from here, we have the Kalahari, where that's the traditional area of the Khomani-San. This area here, Khoisan Valley, is also an area where there are a lot of Khoisan and San people in this area, and also a place recently where there's been some changes in the political landscape. The Khoisan Revolution was born here in Uppington. They say they will be contesting local government elections. But to talk to us about this more, We have the president of the political party, the Khoisan Revolution, that's Stanley Peterson. Good morning.
Koinkia, Mire. That is our language that they said that it's been extinct, but it's still alive. Kaistes, Kangans.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peterson. Tell us, why was there a need to establish this political party?
Thank you very much. Look, Ulrich, to tell South Africa, the Constitution talk only of two words, black and white. Where are we as the Khoi and San people, the first indigenous people of this country? For this mere reason, the Khoi and San, or the Khoisan Revolution was established. Because we know where to be found in the Constitution. First. Secondly, we are landless. We've got no language. We've got nothing. We've got no right. As we're standing here, we're standing in Khoisan Valley. Our people here are staying now for more than 5 years. And in these 5 years, they're staying here, there's no taps into the yards. Opposite you, people are staying for 2.5 years. There's no sanitation, there's no water. Are this the new democratic South Africa? We believe we came from apartheid. But now it seems to us we're still in apartheid. And that's why we said as Khoi and San people, as the Khoisan Revolution, we will be the voice of the voiceless people. As you stand here, this Khoisan Valley is quite big. And upwards is Hash Valley. We are going to contest the local elections with all our heart. You know, there's one thing that we have in mind, and that is, you know, hungry people, a hungry lion, he doesn't bark or roar. Only when he's full. You can see that. So we are from that by saying the Khoisan Revolution. We've got a slogan that says Ki Laba Oip. We said the Khoisan will revive. And the Khoisan's birth, the Khoisan Revolution's birth is here.
Okay, you established this party in January. Elections are likely to take place around about between March per se and August. Do you think it's enough time for you to put structures in place so that you can successfully contest elections in all the areas that you want?
Ulrich, yes, we registered in January, but we didn't work from January. You already started 10 years ago. And we already started 6 months ago. We went through all the provinces. We established, we mobilized our people. At the back you will see the women's leagues are here. The youth leagues are here. But you didn't go out public because we believe, you know, as Khoisan Revolution, we are honored that the SABC are here. Because we are of that belief, nobody will televise this revolution. Because the revolution are the new kid on the block. People are saying, we are not here for win elections. Make no mistake, we're not here for winning elections. We want to be part of elections. And we want to be part of everything that consists us in local government election. And I want to be part in council. If you have 2 or 3 councillors in council, it's fine. At least our goal is for 2019. 2019, we're not, walking before crawling. We crawl before walk. But as things stands now, I can tell you this thing. We thought we'll only get 2 or 3 councillors. But the Khoisan Revolution, I can tell you now, is one of the fastest growing Khoisan or so-called colored parties in South Africa.
You mentioned during our conversation earlier that you have 25,000 members. How do you see this party growing?
Ulrich, yes, as I'm saying, you've got members, you've got paid members, and you've got loyal supporters. You must take these 3 things into account. For us, it's not about saying we're going to vote Khoisan Revolution. For us, as you see, this is foot soldiers and in all the other provinces. We believe in, if you want to be part of the Khoisan Revolution, become a member. That is how we measure our stats, in membership. And we have proof of our membership. We have proof of our payment. This is our things. We measure our votes to contest in the local elections by means of members, paid members, and members.
Contesting in the local government elections, you said you're going to spread it out wide.
Yes, we will contest in 6 provinces currently as it stands now. There is another province also that's interesting. As I'm saying, currently now, the province the 3 provinces that have got the most interest in it is Gauteng, the Northern Cape, and the Western Cape, especially the West Coast. where we believe in the Worcester area, because we have ex-ANC councillors coming on board that say enough is enough. You know, many things happen in the ruling party, especially if you look at the past things that happened in Parliament, where we, the people of the Northern Cape and so-called coloured, have been called Salihali drinkers, Rooipop drinkers. It's unacceptable in New South Africa, where a minister call us these names. The same happened that last year in the Equality Court. I won an Equality Court case where the Premier of this province said the hot nuts are only good for clothes and food. How can a Premier and a senior government official calling us that names? I was a member of the ANC, and these people that I represent give me that mandate and say, Chief, resign from the ANC because you are our leader. Start our own party. We are foot soldiers, or we were foot soldiers of the ANC. We were mobilizing for them. We were working for them. And we're paying them with his own medicine back, this time with our votes.
You want to also get this thing of so-called colours out of the way, you know, to get people to own the name Khoisan.
Yes, thank you very much. That's a very big question. People, and especially our people in South Africa, we don't deny a person that's calling himself a coloured, but let me tell you, there's no such a nation that's a coloured, because there's an Act number 30 of 1950, the Racial Classification Act. That act said that all colours, all Namas, Griquas, Koranas, San, and Khoikhoi are colours, a nation yet still to be established. That was being called by Mrs. de Klerk and Mr. de Klerk. So how can we take names that we are not? You know, in the New South Africa, people are giving us names. They give us this name of coloured. They give us now this new name of African. Can we not be for once in our life calling ourselves Khoisan? I specifically am a Griqua. Let me call me a Griqua. Let my stand brother call him a Bushman. Because it is his right. Don't calling us names that we are not. One thing that I'm saying to you is we're educating our people all over where we go. I've got my own cultural team when I'm going out. This is not a political thing. It's also an educational thing, where I educate them and say, listen here, don't believe people by saying, when you are dressed like us, you are not a Bushman. It doesn't matter you're dressed. You are born who you are. You know, if I said I'm a Griqua or a Bushman, I'm born that. Nobody can take that away from me. So that is the thing that I want to raise to people and make them aware that there's no such a thing of color. You know why they're coming with this thing of color? Because they fear one day the Khoisan will stood up and claim their land. But they make a mistake. We already rise now with the Khoisan Revolution. And our motto and slogan is, we're claiming back our land. Not with force, but with our votes.
The Khoisan Revolution, is it solely for Khoisan people?
No, the Khoisan Revolution are open to everybody. Every minority group in South Africa. You know, it's so strange. In the Northern Cape, you've got this place they call Orania, where the people have this thing there. Our problem is, why the Khoisan people, the first people of this country, cannot have our own villages or our own lands? It's a strange thing. That's why I said in the Eastern Cape, we have got 2 councillors that's going to contest for us, the Khoisan Revolution. So we're not racist-based. We've got our fellow white, about 30 white people that's also members of us. White people, in fact, is now coming on board because we're dealing the same issues and things here. One, language. Afrikaans is one of the languages that we share. Our faith, you know, our belief, our religion belief, because currently this religion has been taken out of schools, and it's a threat to us as of our existence. That's why we are here for all races. Let me emphasize this as the president of the Khoisan Revolution. Every minority group and every race or nation are welcome here. And if anybody is saying you are not welcome, I personally will address that issue.
Thank you very much. That's Stanley Peters. He's the president of the Khoisan Revolution. They're planning to contest the local government election in 6 of the country's provinces. Should be a very interesting one. So basically, local government elections 2016 have started off with a bang. Very interesting here in the Northern Cape, and of course the other provinces that he mentioned, like the Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and the Free State. But with that, it's back to the studio.
Thank you, Ulrich. Very interesting development. Khoisan political party. And that's going to be interesting to watch. But right now we'll take a break, and Kendall Makamate will be back with your sports news right after this.
For victory requires intense effort and teamwork. When you get to it, there is no turning back, because all eyes are on you. When it's action time, nothing should stand in your way. Sports Live tackles and analyzes all the sport action. This is the home of all your sport news, updates, and more. Sports Live weekdays at 8:30 p.m.
Technology isn't all scary. There's also fun stuff like gaming.
Lots of women do play games, whether it's on their phones or their tablets.
Then there are Africans who are using new tools to make other people's lives much easier.
We typed the whole CV on a small, QWERTY Nokia phone.
For all these and other technology and social media news, join me, Sphumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC News.
Welcome back. I'm Kendall Makamate. I've got your sports on Newsroom, time being 25 before 12. Top story for this sports bulletin is on football. Polokwane City have derailed Kaizer Chiefs' chance of keeping in touch with upset Premiership log leaders Mamelodi Sundowns. Hosts Samakhosi were forced to settle for a 1-1 draw against relegation-threatened Polokwane City at the FNB Stadium last night.
The Absa Premiership race has shown teams at the top that their positions are not guaranteed. And with just 9 or 10 games left, it's too early for them to be counting their chickens, because the teams facing relegation are not going to be donating any points. Panic and desperation can lead to teams opening themselves up in defense. Polokwane gave Chiefs a wake-up call when Tobani Mngwango scored in the 31st minute.
Will be a Polokwane City ball, but they won't need it. Malulega's ball onto the near post, beautifully met.
The result for us was not good because we are fighting for 3 points, but away of home against a powerful team like Kaizer Chiefs, we can go home with 1 point.
We did not have the right attitude and the right energy. I thought we could have played a bit quicker without showing any signs of desperation. But instead of having some sense of agency, we were more lethargic, I don't know, for whatever reason.
However, Chiefs did not give them time to celebrate, as they responded almost immediately. For a team that has conceded 33 goals before this match, it was not expected that they would hold Chiefs in defense. The result leaves Chiefs in third place on the log with 39 points, 7 adrift of leaders Sundowns, who will make up the game in hand tonight with a tough clash against Black Aces. Themba Shiba, SABC News.
And so it is that Mamelodi Sundowns could pull even further ahead when they take to the field tonight. Now here's a quick look at the fixtures. Just a reminder of the 1-1 scoreline between Chiefs and Polokwane City. And tonight at Goble Park, all matches kicking off at 7:30 p.m. We've got Free State Stars hosting Ajax Cape Town, then Mamelodi Sundowns against pretenders to the throne, Mpumalanga Black Aces at the Lucas Muripe Stadium. Marigwala is where Bidvest Vets will be visiting Maritzburg United to see if they can pull 3 points off them. Now Lionel Messi struck twice with 2 late goals as Barcelona crushed Arsenal's hopes of advancing in the UEFA Champions League last night in the last 16 first leg tie at the Emirates. Now, This particular match at the Emirates had failed to produce any of the expected fireworks, with their famed and much-feared MSN trio not quite gelling. It was only in the 71st minute in a counter-attacking blitz that Messi was able to convert that pressure into a brilliant goal.
Monreal comes across. Lionel Messi, 1-0 Barcelona. On the break, Arsenal broken.
He then managed to follow it up with a penalty, putting Barcelona firmly in charge of the tie.
Messi scores. Barcelona have 2 away goals.
Then Juventus staged a superb comeback against Bayern. First, Miller pounced on a cross to put the visitors ahead.
Well, you can't say it hasn't been coming.
Then Ian Robben doubled the lead early in the second half.
Works the angle and doubles the lead.
And all of this is before goals from Paul Dybala and substitute Stefanos Turaro drew the host level.
Morata heading it into a dangerous area. It's 2-2. What a comeback from Juventus!
Now for a quick look at the UEFA Champions League fixtures for tonight. And a quick reminder, of course, of the scoreline from last night's matches. But tonight, in Eindhoven, PSV host Atletico Madrid, and Dynamo Kiev will have Manchester City visiting them out in Kiev itself. Obviously staying with football news, but going a little further afield from the field of play, the Court of Arbitration for Sport has said it will decide tomorrow whether to suspend FIFA's presidential vote after candidate Prince Ali bin Al Hussein filed a case seeking delay. The Jordanian prince, one of 5 hopefuls, wants transparent voting booths used at Friday's Congress to find a replacement for former FIFA president Sepp Blatter. Meanwhile, Gianni Infantino, another running candidate, fresh from his visit to Robben Island, is confident about his prospects to win the election.
See on Friday.
How confident?
Definitely, yeah. No, I am. Of course, I'm confident. I'm very confident about the situation as it is now, and the discussions I'm having with the leaders of many associations make me feel even more confident. So I hope to have some more than 105.
Now, Proteas fast bowler Dale Steyn will make his return to competitive cricket when he plays for Western Province Cricket Club in a Premier League fixture against St Augustine Cricket Club over this coming weekend. Sidelined by a shoulder injury, Steyn has not played international cricket since December last year, but he's determined to be ready for next month's 3 T20 internationals against Australia, as well as the ICC World T20 in India.
Clear right now. Unfortunately, I'd been given and set aside 8 weeks to sort out the shoulder. Often these things, if you come back from these things, can result in spending a lot more time on the sideline, even up to 8 months on the sideline. After all, my right shoulder is the business part of what I do. I'm a right-arm bowler, so I really need to look after it. It's not like a groin or a hamstring, which if I injure it can take a while, but that's muscular. This is more bone. So, if you mess around with something like a bone, it can take up to 8 months or even a year. And in some cases, some bowlers have never really recovered from these things. I've been fortunate that I got my 8 weeks to bite the nail and just go for it and do the time. But I'm 100% perfect now. I've been training with the boys last week. The ball's coming out fine. The pace hasn't dropped. The action is fine. You do what I do for the last 12 years. Muscle memory tends to kick in. So I'm feeling strong. Spent a lot of time in the gym. I'm as fit as a fiddle. And as excited as I was the first day I got my shirt to represent South Africa to go again. So looking forward to this ICC event in Australia just before that.
And so here are the matches facing the Proteas over the next 2 to 3 weeks. First up, when Australia lands on our shores, 6 p.m. on the Friday, the 4th of March, the first T20 at Kingsmead in Durban. Then they move on the Sunday to the Wanderers. 2:30 that match starts. And then the last T20 before the World Cup against Australia will be played in Cape Town against the picturesque backdrop of Table Mountain at Newlands Cricket Ground. 6 p.m. that one will start. Then the T20 World Cup, our very first match that we'll be playing in Mumbai, will be against the host India on Saturday, 12th of March. That one starts at 6 p.m. Now, Australia have climbed to the top of the International Cricket Council's Test rankings for the first time since July 2014. following a 2-0 series win over New Zealand. Australia won the second test in Christchurch by 7 wickets just after lunch on day 5. Now on resumption and needing just 131 runs for victory, they lost the wickets of Usman Khawaja for 45 and man of the match Joe Burns for 65. Captain Steve Smith was unbeaten on 53 when Adam Voges hit the winning runs. Australia has now won 7 out of 10 test matches with not even a single loss. This new position in world cricket earns them the right to get the prestigious ICC Mace and $1 million prize. The Eastern Cape Super Rugby franchise, the Southern Kings, have named their team for the tournament opener against the Durban-based Sharks. A number of the players will be familiar to the Eastern Cape faithful when the side runs out in the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium over the weekend. The preparation for their re-entry into Super Rugby has been far from ideal, as financial problems at the Eastern Province Rugby led to the Super Rugby franchise being taken over by SARU.
Will be captained by Stephen Sykes. He is one of the stalwarts of the 2013 Southern Kings Super Rugby side. The side boasts some experienced players, but also a number of debutants. The takeover by SARU resulted in not all the EP Kings players securing Super Rugby contracts. The Eastern Province Rugby Union is also facing a liquidation application following the non-payment of players. But the state of affairs seems not to have hampered their preparation.
We'll have a bigger never say die attitude. I think the guys really grew together. We want to play and we want to show everybody that we're here to play rugby and we're here to play as a team. So I think from the guys that's here that played in 2013 and the guys that's still here, I think you can expect something special from them.
The Southern Kings will start their campaign with 3 o'clock kick-off on Saturday. Zolani Moya, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
And that's where we leave it with the sports. Up next, we have a look at the weather.
Hi there, welcome from the weather desk. So it looks like we're expecting possibilities of some thunderstorms only towards the northwestern parts of the central regions of southern Africa, as well as over the central regions of Botswana, some parts of Gauteng in the South African part, and going down to the northwest province. And then over the Karoo, please do look out for possibilities of a high fire danger, and those could lead to temperatures being sky high, especially if you're going to be in Grafri Net, towards some parts of the Northern Cape province and all the way up into the southern part of Namibia. So temperatures are expected to heat up. Upington, in fact, will go as high as around 37 degrees. Rainy weather for tomorrow as well towards the eastern side, especially over the Eastern Cape province. And then we're seeing those scattered showers moving across the northeastern escarpment and over the interior towards the northwest province. You should expect the rainy conditions along there. In terms of your temperatures, it is going to be quite hot, as I mentioned. Upington at 37 degrees, Pretoria 32, and we're seeing those upper 20s for Lusaka, as well as over Harare. Beira still slightly cooler at 31 degrees. Partly cloudy skies are expected for much of South Africa and Southern Africa. And then we're seeing rainy conditions for Brazzaville, going up to Libreville, Yaoundé, including Bangui. In the Central African Republic, do expect isolated and a mixture of scattered showers spreading all across into Kampala, into Kigali, and definitely all the way into Addis Ababa. Temperatures for Addis Ababa are going to be quite warm as well, at 24 degrees, partly cloudy skies, and a good chance of rain is expected there. The 30s are expected from Kinshasa right through Luanda, going up north into Yaoundé, and then upper 30s for Bangui, as well as over Juba. And have a look at places such as northern Sudan. That's where it's going to get much hotter, especially over Khartoum. Kampala is at 27, 26 for Kigali, and again, those lower 30s are expected along the east coast of Africa. Along the Horn of Africa, you should expect those temperatures to continue rising for the next couple of hours. Clear conditions for the central regions, especially as you now move into the Sahara Desert, as well as over the Faroes. It is expected to remain slightly warmer now. A bit of sunny skies coming in there. It looks like summer is approaching. So warmer conditions coming in. We're seeing lower 20s for Cairo, Benghazi, and Tripoli still into the upper teens. So nice and cool weather is expected there. Seba 26, 32 for Al Juf, and Agadez peaking at 33 degrees. It is going to be quite hot and dry for Bamako as well as over Dakar. Only a little bit of clouds will be coming in just along the coastal parts for Abidjan as well as over Lagos, moving on into Yaoundé in Cameroon. Otherwise, temperatures are going to go rocketing sky high for Bamako, 40 degrees. The mercury doesn't stop there. Jambena goes to 39, 38 for Naimi. Marrakech is much cooler at 23. Still sunny skies for Algiers as well as over Rabat. So the northern parts of Morocco are much cooler, but the minute you move down to the southern regions, it gets a lot warmer. Temperatures going there as high as 23 degrees. This is where I leave it for the weather. Weather at sabc.co.za. That's where you can communicate with us. Otherwise, find us on Twitter at SABC Online. Stay tuned. There'll be more later.
Like that's where we're going to end it today. Now, we ask you a very important question about the chaos that we've seen erupting in universities and your comments on that. But unfortunately, it seems like we have a problem with our system. We can't show you those comments right now.
It would have been good to hear what people have to say, no?
It would have been good to know, why have our universities become a battleground instead of a place where you learn, an institution of learning and moving forward. But anyway, that's where we got to leave it from myself, Elvis Preslin.
And me, Kendo Makamad.
We'll see you bright and early, same time, same place tomorrow morning, right here on Newsroom. Ciao for now. Arrivederci.
Legamos.